there one that's contractors? Contractors?
Same password.
It's a different order. I mean, it's contractors.
Try the word contractors.
Yeah.
I know that one.
When I used a different way in the beginning.
Oh, okay. His presentation. I don't have another one.
All right, good evening. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Today is April 10th, 2018. The time is 6:37 p.m. This is the McLendon-Chisholm City Council meeting. We are going to begin with an invocation and pledge allegiance to the U.S. and Texas flag led by Councilmember Herron. Mr. Herron.
We bow your heads. Oh, Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight, Lord, just to lift you up and praise your holy name. Lord, we love you and we thank you for all the blessings you bestow upon us. Lord, we just ask you tonight to be with this body here as we deliberate the people's business. Lord, watch over our thoughts, our minds, our actions. Lord, have us do your will as you'd see it done. Lord, watch our words so that we are wholly acceptable to your ways, Lord. We also ask that you watch over us and keep us safe tonight as people travel back to their homes. We ask all these blessings in Jesus' name. Amen.
Okay, well, I'd like to invite some guests from the Children's Advocacy Center for Rockwall County. So if y'all will please come up, we have a presentation and proclamation. This is Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness Month, and we have representatives here to talk about that. So before I give the proclamation, would you mind sharing a little bit about this month and what you do and help our community understand what they can participate in and help?
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Patricia Mejia. I'm the president and CEO of the Children's Advocacy Center for Rockwall County. We're really excited to finally open our doors. Up until now, Rockwall County has not had a Children's Advocacy Center. All of our neighboring counties have. Without a child advocacy center in place, children who make outcries of abuse. We treat kids who've been victims of physical abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, and witness to homicide or domestic violence. And so without a Children's Advocacy Center in place, children are taken to law enforcement and have to tell a very difficult story that often is laden with shame, guilt, and fear. And then they're taken to CPS and they have to tell the story again. And then they're taken to a mental health and a medical health professional and have to tell those stories again. And one of the unintended consequences of that is those children get re-victimized in that process. So with the Children's Advocacy Center in place, what we do is we work collaboratively, we work very closely with all of those different professionals. So all of the ones that I mentioned, as well as the District Attorney's Office, and our sexual assault response team in Rockwall County. And now if a child makes an outcry, they come to the Children's Advocacy Center. We work under a memorandum of understanding with all of those partners together. They come to the Children's Advocacy Center. It's a child-friendly environment where they feel not only safe, secure, and confidential, but they feel like it's a place that they're welcome, that they belong. And it makes it a whole lot easier for them to tell some details about a very difficult story. And so with that in place, we are able to get the ball rolling on the investigative process, but more importantly, it is the first step in that child's journey of hope and healing. Because one of the other things that we offer and provide in terms of direct services is counseling. We have a family advocate that meets with the non-offending family members and helps them through that crisis and transition. Sadly, the research tells us from reported cases that 1 out of 4 children are at risk. We know that 1 in 3 boys and 1 in 4 girls will suffer from physical abuse, and 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will suffer from sexual abuse, all before they turn 18 years of age. And while we teach stranger danger, and that's good, one of the things that we also know from reported cases is that over 95% of victims know and love their perpetrators. And so that family advocacy piece is a critical component for keeping the family members engaged, for making sure that the children family members can get the therapy that they need. We offer trauma-focused therapy, which is different than going to see a regular family therapist. And we not only work with that family to get them back on their feet, but I think the beauty of the model is we do a better job collaboratively of making case coordination possible, of investigating cases, and for helping kids heal. If children do not get the treatment that they need when they've suffered trauma from that type of abuse, later on in life we know they will be less productive in society. They'll live with higher levels of kind of suicidal ideation and depression. They will live with higher levels of risky behavior, heart disease, and stroke, and probably, sadly, are at the highest risk for turning around and becoming a perpetrator. So the model we know works from the research that's been done. The therapy is working it's something they probably will never forget, but they are healing through that trauma and they're growing up to be more productive. And so we're really excited. We're number 70 to open our doors in the state of Texas. We've been kind of given our accrediting by the CACs of Texas, which is based in Austin. And so I have with me the vice president of our board, Cindy Lindley, who lives here in McLendon-Chisholm, and Robin Chodo, who's also a director on our board. So we are just so thankful. April is Child Abuse Awareness and Prevention Month. So if you see buildings around the county going blue, if you see us wearing blue, you see blue ribbons around the county in places that you're going, you know why. And it's really just to help create awareness. I believe in my heart that awareness leads to prevention. And so the more we get comfortable talking to our kids, keeping our kids safe, letting them know that it's okay, that they've got ownership of their bodies, and it's okay to say no to things. And if they do see something, to say something. We teach kids that come through, especially like little Girl Scouts that come through, that, you know, as leaders, maybe nothing is happening to you, but if a friend tells you a secret, some secrets are not good secrets to keep. And so go ahead and tell your mom or dad. And the law in the state of Texas says that every adult has the responsibility to report any suspicion of abuse, and this is any adult, so not just mandatory reporters. So that's what April is all about, creating awareness, helping keep kids more safe and alert, and just doing a better job of keeping the kids in Rockwall County more safe. And so together we're able to make it a better place to live, learn, work, play, and pray. So thank you for the awareness today.
Well, and so tell us, how are you funded?
So our funding, a large portion of our funding right now is through some government grants that we secure through an organization called VOCA. It's Victims of Crime Act, and also through Health and Human Services. That's just a portion of our budget. The whole rest of our budget is through our own fundraising and donations.
And where are you located?
We're located we're just south of Harry Myers Park in Rockwall. If anybody knows, who knows where the Seroptimist House is? Anyone? So the Seroptimists have been such a blessing to us. They've donated that facility to us. You may have seen some media coverage lately where we had our official ribbon cutting, and there were lots of community partners, businesses in Royce City, McLendon-Chisholm, Rockwall, that all came together to help renovate that facility to really make it child-friendly. And I think they did a fabulous job in striking the right balance, given the fact that we treat kids between the ages of 3 and 17, boys and girls. So it's been just a blessing to see how the whole community has come together, and moving forward, we're just hoping that we can just do a better job of, working on those cases.
Well, with that, let me do the honor of presenting this proclamation. Whereas the Children's Advocacy Center for Rockwall County was organized in 2016 and provides trauma-informed care for children in Rockwall County, and whereas the Children's Advocacy Center for Rockwall County is an intricacy, multidisciplinary partnership dedicated to providing intervention, hope, and healing for abused and neglected children, and whereas the Children's Advocacy Center for Rockwall County provides a safe, child-friendly environment where law enforcement, child protective services, prosecution, medical and mental health professionals can collaborate within our own community to develop coordinated strategies to more effectively seek justice and promote healing for victims of child abuse. And whereas, through a national effort, Rockwall County community members are encouraged to join together throughout the month of April to raise awareness for those children fallen victim to abuse and neglect. And whereas, this effort will provide abused and neglected children in our community and around the country a chance for a safe and positive future. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Robert Steinhagen, Mayor of the City of McLendon-Chisholm, Texas, do hereby recognize April as Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness Month in the City of McLendon-Chisholm, and urge all citizens to join in a national effort to raise awareness and help prevent child abuse and neglect. Thank you so much. We really appreciate what you're doing. Let's give them a big round. Appreciate it.
Get a picture?
Yes.
Robin, you? Thanks, Tom.
Hold on, one more.
The official one.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all. Good to see you. Okay. I'll read now the rules of decorum. Meetings of McLendon-Chisholm City Council serves and represents the citizens that reside inside the city limits of McLendon-Chisholm. In accordance with Texas state law, and except when convening an executive session, all meetings of the City Council are open to the public. However, unless either the presiding officer decides or the council votes to suspend the rules, only the council members may engage in the proceedings. Decorum dictates that those who are present be respectful of the opinions, statements, and actions of the council and other citizens who are present, especially when they may not agree with or take exception to the words or actions of others. Adhering to rules of decorum is less about showing respect to the council, but more about demonstrating respect for oneself and to all citizens of McLendon-Chisholm. All city meetings are governed by Robert's Rules of Order, and as such, decorum, defined as controlled, calm, and well-behaved, shall be required of all those present. The mayor, or in his absence, the mayor pro tem, is the presiding officer of all meetings. The greatest benefit of using Robert's Rules of Order is that it slows down discussion and debate. This requires both sides of an issue to show consideration to other supporting or opposing points of view. Respecting decorum mitigates disagreements from escalating into arguments or worse. It can also help us to bring clarity to a point of view rather than rushing to judge the motives of others. Unless the presiding officer chooses to take items out of order, all matters that are before the council will be addressed in order according to the meeting agenda and Robert's Rules of Order. However, action or deliberation on any matter that is not included in the agenda cannot by rule be considered at this meeting. Most agendas include an opportunity for citizens that reside inside the city limits to address their representatives on the council via citizens' comments. This opportunity is not a platform for citizens to expect or demand answers from the council. Citizens who have questions of the council will be best served to contact members or the city staff directly, especially if there is the expectation of a timely and informed response. This opportunity is also not a platform for non-citizens or contractors with the city to address the city council. Individuals and groups that are not citizens of the city but wish to address a matter are welcome to contact City Hall. Contractors that may have a concern about an issue that may come before the City Council should contact the mayor, as the state of Texas has established the mayor of a general law type A city as the chief executive officer. On occasion, the council may suspend the rules to accommodate citizen input from citizens' presence. In these instances, the following standards shall be respected. Discussion must stay focused on the topic at hand, and decorum is still in effect. As all business conducted at meetings is for the purpose and benefit of the city, unless otherwise indicated, when the public floor is made open, only citizens of the city of McLendon-Chisholm who are present at the meeting may participate. No one may filibuster the meeting, while the presiding officer may call a citizen that is attempting to filibuster a meeting out of order. As the presiding officer, I shall demur to the sense of the majority of members to make that determination should this ever occur. A citizen that wishes to engage the council shall stand at the microphone and wait to be recognized by the presiding officer before commenting. After being recognized by the presiding officer, the citizen should state their full name, spell it out for more complicated names, and their street address. From that point forward, if they rise to speak again, they may simply restate their name after being recognized. Anyone observing the proceedings electronically are ineligible to participate. Comments or questions posted online during the proceedings while the council is in session are not recognized and may not be addressed. Citizens are not allowed to make motions, including points of order, points of information. For those who believe that an action or ruling of the presiding officer is out of order, or if you believe that an issue is unclear, you may alert the city staff by passing them a note. As with any open meeting, all those present have the right to attend, but no one has the right to disrupt the proceedings. The presiding officer will make every effort to respectfully address anyone who violates decorum should they move or speak out of order. Those who disregard the admonition of the presiding officer to comply with decorum may be asked to leave the proceedings in accordance with Texas state law regarding open meetings by a governing body. Should an individual refuse to leave, the presiding officer may recess the meeting and reconvene after either the individual leaves or is removed by law enforcement. The acoustics in the meeting chamber magnifies sound and noise. This is most noticeable when observers who are present comment to one another during session, which is both distracting to others and stifles the quality of the audio that is being recorded and/or broadcast. Therefore, whenever the council is in session, attendees should refrain from extraneous verbal remarks or exchanges inside the chamber, including at the rear of the room. Attendees who wish to converse during session should move their discussion outside of the chamber. We're now moving to citizens' comments, and this is an opportunity for citizens who reside inside the city limits of McLendon-Chisholm to speak to the council. Citizens should stand at the podium, state their name and address, and then express questions or concern. the next line that is on the agenda was added last week. We were working on something, but it is not applicable, and the city attorney had asked me to take that off, and unfortunately I did not. So if you do have something that you would like to have a concern, they may be referred to the staff or scheduled for consideration at a future city council meeting. The floor is now open for citizens' comments.
Good evening. My name is Bev Stebbins. I live at 279 Partridge Drive in Quail Creek. My concern tonight is item number 6 on the agenda. My husband and I moved here in 1982. He became active with the fire department for a short time during that time. I became very active in city government in 1985 and served many years in the seats where you are tonight. My concern is we've always been served by the county fire marshal. Why do we need to have our own fire marshal? I'm hoping you can help me understand that tonight, because I do not see that as a good use of our dollars. Thank you.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I have a clarifying question. You said, to be clear, agenda item 6, the fire marshal has been struck from this meeting and moved to a future meeting, is that correct? I'm sorry, what item did you say was being struck from tonight's agenda?
It was just the portion of the description under citizens' comments. Last week there was confusion as to whether somebody could ask us questions.
I see, very good, thank you. All right, then since agenda item 6 is still on the agenda, my apologies for my confusion on that, and we don't have the opportunity to ask questions later due to decorum, I wanted to ask up front, why do we need a fire marshal when we receive those services from Rockwall County? And what will we be paying for these duplication of services? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Daniel Lewis, 1223 East FM 550. I know that this building caused a lot of flack, and the reason why y'all are sitting here now because y'all ran on open government, being open to the citizens, and y'all felt like when this was being built, the citizens were not informed on the cost, the price, what all was going into it. Y'all ran on being very open, or the other members or the old council was not open. And just like Robert asked, cost. And I have not seen one piece of mail on what y'all are doing with the fire service, a city-owned fire service, what the cost is. So I just ask y'all to be open, and I'd like to see something. I don't want y'all to be closed and keep us uninformed and just like because y'all, I feel like you're already ramrodding this in the direction, just like y'all said the last council ramrodded this building into production, and then we were stuck with the cost. What is this cost of fire service? We haven't seen any numbers. I'd like to see that piece of mail in my mailbox soon or something. So thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you, sir.
Elaine Reynolds, 851 South State Highway 205. I'm here to address you also about the fire department. I think there's a lot of stuff out on social media that thinks I'm against the fire department. That couldn't be farther from the truth. 2 of my uncles were firefighters. I respect the firefighters. But I also, we used to give a lot of money to the fire department all the way up through 2013 with the chili cook-offs, the pictures. My dad used to come and bring a check for them every year. And I feel like we were deceived because we thought this was a true volunteer fire department. I had no idea it was a business entity. I thought we were giving money to get equipment for the city. But that's me, you know, that's our bad. We didn't check into that. We didn't really find out exactly what was going on. It sounds like to me, from what I've heard from y'all, that the fire department got a reasonable contract to merge with the city. I wish that would have happened. That would have been a perfect thing. And I think you gave the longest period that you could legally. And if we're not sure about whether that was legal or not, we ought to find out about how long you could go there. Anyway, and just, I'm thinking about the other council, they said that they did this with the fire department. Well, we should find out if that was legal. That sounds like it wasn't, they gave more years than they really could have. But we never knew anything about what they were doing, just about this building. And this is what I've said about this building. We didn't know this building was going up. With 2,500 people, I'm not sure we needed a $2 million building. And also the other problem, I think, was that they could not get guaranteed, the firefighters could not get guaranteed that they would still have a job. Well, that's kind of a sticky issue. I think on one hand, you don't want to let the new fire chief, you want him to have his say, but I also believe that a dedicated fire chief would welcome the men and women that have worked here for years. They have the experience, they know the citizens, they've worked with us, they know the town. I really believe firefighters are a brotherhood and they could work together. So I don't know why that was a problem. I mean, I can understand people not thinking that they were gonna have their jobs taken away, but also I believe everyone is in favor of a fire service. We all want to be protected. I just don't know that we need paid personnel. I'm not sure. We're so, Rockwall is still a volunteer fire department. But I'm not gonna oppose the majority. Whatever the majority of the city wants, we'll go along with that. But I would like to see the percentages from the city survey on what everyone wanted. Believe me, I'm glad that they were there when I had my wreck. It was in the Lord's hands that me and my grandkids and the driver and his daughters that I was pushed into were not injured. And the firefighters were there. Thank God I didn't really have to need them. But they were there and they helped with the traffic and the other cars that were involved also. These are our everyday heroes, along with police and EMTs. But we also need the EMT service here, not only just fire. We have a lot of medical because of the wrecks and stuff we have, and just medical emergencies. I do think we need some kind of EMT here close. So I would really like, I had to take myself off of social media today because I got bullied for speaking out about the half-truths on the radio today, which part of the half-truths was this building. Oh, we got this building built. Yeah, but you didn't tell the citizens. You didn't let us have a vote on whether we wanted it, and we wanted to pay taxes for it. We got a trash service. We didn't ask for trash service. I'm paying twice as much a month now for my trash service. So that's what I was speaking to. I wasn't speaking anything against the fire department. I believe we need a fire department. But I don't know what, I think we need to look, like they're all talking about, looking into the cost of which one's more feasible. But I believe y'all are trying to do that. And I believe y'all have been open with that. Thank you.
Okay, we move on to, do you want to move an item? We're going to move an item on the agenda from,
Apologize.
okay, last individual.
Okay.
Then, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Paul.
Okay, would you just form a line if there's anyone else that would like to speak? We have a robust agenda, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for everyone for being here. Thank you for your comments. My name is Lance Agee. I live at 1509 Via Toscana, the neighborhood that you don't like. What I'd like to speak about is the cost of service for a fire department. Can you tell me what the cost of creating a fire department will cost the city? Tim? Adrian?
Again, I'm going to call you out of order, and if you continue to ask us questions, we've already established you cannot ask us questions.
That's fine.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you not being able to answer the question. The bottom line is, after looking at the numbers, and you can go to the Rockwall Fire Department and look at their numbers, based off the average home price of $200,000. When you recalculate that based off the $360,000 home price in McLendon-Chisholm, you pay about $60 a month for fire service on an average household. We currently pay $14, $15 for the average home in McLendon-Chisholm. We can't get fire service any cheaper than we currently have today. We're currently paying through our taxes Rockwall County EMS. That is currently paid for. The sheriff provides free service, not really, but they provide service to us through our taxes as well. The interesting thing is that our city employees like Dave Butler, Lisa, the city attorney, who is not actually an employee of the city, but a vendor, and the city planner, based off your current budget numbers and the numbers from last year, will actually be paid $200,000 more than the fire department had they been paid. Did you know that? Have you looked at the numbers? Have you weighed that out? You know, what was funny is Turnbull sat here and said he was saving our city $100,000 by restructuring the debt. Meanwhile, you spent all that money on the city attorney. So congratulations, great financial job you did there. But our city sent out a survey. We've yet to hear the results from that. However, citizens like Mr. Quinn here, who he and I sit on the polar opposites of the political spectrum, went out and went door to door along with many other residents in this community. Over 10.8% of the population completed a survey. That population, overwhelmingly with a 95 percentile, wanted a fully funded fire department. Now, I understand that people want volunteer and everyone wants lower taxes, and so do I. I'm sure each of you do. Probably even Adrian as well. You know, she lives in Sonoma Verde just like I do. We pay a PID. We pay more than everyone else if you break it down for taxes. And our PID continues to go up, but that's not the point. The point is we could have sat together and funded this fire department and we wouldn't be having a conversation today. In fact, you guys are probably not going to get reelected, but you might have had a better chance because you could have sat down and formed an ESD. And that would give you a place at the table, the citizens and the county. At some point in time, those people will want to be annexed into McLendon-Chisholm. And the good deeds today will go a long way with all that tax revenue that's sitting out there in the High Point Lakes, and the other areas. That money would have gone to eventually bringing in that ESD into the city, and we would have had total control of that. There is no way that we can take a fire department in this city with its population and fund that without a tax increase. You can hire a fire marshal to go down to Sonic and check the grease traps and to check the smoke alarms. What else is he going to do the rest of the day? Is he going to be a smoke alarm for everybody? Yeah, the mayor once said that we needed smoke detectors because they save lives. Well, just so you know, Kitty just had the largest recall of smoke detectors the world has ever seen. So smoke detectors are defective. But firemen, come into our house. Look it up, Mayor. With your smart aleck grin. But, you know, we really need to think about looking at an ESD. It would save us all money in the city, you all. Dave Butler knows this, he can do the numbers. Maybe he's not doing his job. Maybe he needs to resign. Maybe Dave Pascal needs to be audited. You want the fire department to be audited? They've been around here for 40 years. They live here. But didn't the city attorney go from $50,000 to $150,000 in the budget? It's a lot of money. I think everyone here would like a pay increase like that. I would implore you, because I know none of you like me, I don't really care, but I would implore you to think about forming an ESD. It would lower the taxes to the city, increase the burden a little bit on the county, but we'd have a fully funded fire department. And so before you go in here and do some of these silly things here on this agenda, maybe you take an executive session, think about that, have dinner, maybe Adrian can have her desserts, and you guys can start listening to what us people think. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I'm James Parnell, 621 Glen Acres, here in McLendon-Chisholm. A couple of things. I'm not going to go over what other people have already talked about, but in regards to the fire department, I find it very interesting because before I got here, I did make some phone calls to find out exactly. Some of you may or may not be, I'm a Dallas police officer. Right, I work in the big city. So I called the fire department guys to see where they were on this. And I got some interesting things. No one that I talked to, from the fire chief to the president of the association there, no one in the size of this city has full-time paid employees. Nobody they know of anywhere have that, okay? So I understand that, because you've got to look at the payroll, you're looking at holidays, vacation time, sick time, you're looking at workers' comp and all that. If you worked out some sort of deal that whoever's going to take this fire marshal position doesn't want any of that, well, that's interesting. But, hey, okay, then I guess you don't have to worry about that. Looking at the volunteer fire departments, volunteer. Next tier up is a volunteer in part-time, like Sunnyvale. I would think we'd all agree Sunnyvale's quite a bit, little larger than us. Then you have the full-time, part-time, and volunteer like Wiley. And then you have the full-time like Dallas. I don't understand where we're going with this. Don't get me wrong, being a police officer, I'm an advocate for public safety. I advocated when I sat where y'all sat. I wanted a police officer here. We could do an interlocal agreement with the county, like fate, and have a police officer and all this kinds of stuff. I don't see what wasn't working before. Maybe I'm a little late to the game, okay? I don't see in the weeds how this didn't work before and now we need to do this. I don't believe that you own the equipment. The donations that we gave when I sat on the council went to the volunteer fire department. That was not part of the city. You don't own any equipment. A brand new truck, $750,000. A used one's $250,000, and maintenance is about $20,000 a year. So I don't know where this money's coming from that y'all think about it. I could be wrong, and I see your faces, and you're squinting, and all this kinds of stuff. Tell me I'm wrong. You're allowed to comment back. It says it right here, as I stated before. If you choose not to, that's your choice. But you are allowed to. So I don't know where we're going. I advocated, we want to be a city. I lost my position because I told the people to be a city, we're going to have taxes. Don't set it so late we can't be so low that we can't be a city. They are where they are, and they are what we're doing. As I stated before, we need to be a city. But in this, if whoever this employee is working for, I don't know what y'all decided to pay him, and is willing to give up all those other benefits to fit in the budget, okay, good. I guess y'all already made your decision. We'll see where that rolls. but in good conscience, and being a public safety for 27 years on the police department, and seeing how the cities work, being in the politics of it, this is a little disheartening to me to see that, okay, we're going to do this, and this. We'll figure it out. How do you get the employees to do it? The volunteers are volunteers. Commend them for it. But then to go to the next level, and the next level, like I described before, that's where you have to progress to. This city does not have the size nor the money to get to that level anytime soon, in my opinion. Until you get to 5,000, become a home rule city where you can annex the people in your ETJ, or you can forcibly annex them. Okay? We're not there yet. We do have the boundaries. We have to do our ETJ and all this kinds of stuff. But until someone explains to me after this, when you can talk, because obviously none of y'all are going to comment on it, how y'all's decision came to this in the best interest of the future. I can be wrong, but I haven't heard it. I haven't heard from anyone that says I am. But maybe I'm a little late to the game, like I said. So, in regards to that, and just looking at that, I would hope y'all would consider that before it looks like you're going to pull the trigger on it anyway. Maybe not in the best interest of the city. But you know what? Y'all sit there, and I don't sit there anymore. And you do it in the best interest of what you think. And tough decisions have to be made. I agree. Not everyone agreed with the decisions that I pushed. I'm the one that pushed the trash for one trash. Because the private roads that we live on got beat up by 3 different vendors coming. And the idea was one vendor set and all that. I got beat up for that. Sure did. Those are tough decisions. And y'all have to make those tough decisions. But if you consider some of this, and you listen to lots of testimony, that hopefully, maybe mine, just in there somewhere too. Thank you.
Ms. Parnell, just want to let you know that all your questions that you had will be answered before a decision will be made.
Thank you.
Good evening, City Council members, Mr. Mayor. My name is Keith Short. I live at 1525 Barolo Drive in the Sonoma Verde subdivision. I spoke at the last City Council meeting, and I said some things I wrote down that I thought about before I came. At the end, I shared something with each and every one of you, okay? And I shared with you that you as an elected official, that we as the community and the citizens here, we don't work for you. You work for us. And I asked each and one of you to think about that. What I saw after that in this meeting, in the City Council meeting last time, was some of the same things I'm seeing tonight. Every one of you should be ashamed to be sitting on that side, because you've shown utter disrespect to us as the citizens of this community. From the eye rolls, to the smirky looks, to the way that you phrase things during this council, to where you bait people into saying something, whether it was intentional or unintentional. You are our elected officials, and you act like a bunch of schoolyard bullies with the way you present some stuff. I've also watched some of these presentations concerning the fire service. I'm not going to get into tit for tat on everything, but some of the facts you put up on these PowerPoints, you're only telling half truths. That's disgusting. You give partial information, which looks good, but you don't give the full stories. I work in law enforcement. I've given most of my adult life in public service in one way, shape, or another. You guys should be ashamed to be sitting over there in the way that you talk to us, the way that you treat us as the members of this community. I want an official that I'm proud is representing me and my city. And I can tell you right now, what I've heard in these chambers, and I don't know all of you personally, I'm very disgusted in what I see, from people losing their tempers to the eye rolls and the smirks and the utter disregard for some people that when they spoke up here. I've watched you. Some of you just look down at either your iPad or whatever you have in front of you. You owe us the respect to look at us when we speak. You want that respect as an elected official, but you're not given the same thing in return. And then you wonder why people are so upset with you on social media. Think about what you're doing. Think about us. We are the community. We're your bosses. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to move on to business. Is there an adjustment to the agenda?
Not yet.
No? Okay. Moving on to the fire marshal position, service consultant, is that correct? All right. In light of that, how did we get here? And it really kind of starts with the new Rockwall County Emergency Medical Services Ambulance Service contract, which became effective last October 1st, which dramatically reduces the maximum response time from 11 to 8 minutes for priority 1 calls. Even more importantly, the new provision allows the Rockwall County Emergency Medical Services Board, on which I serve, to assess financial penalties for failure to meet the contracted monthly standards. The previous 5-year contract provided for a guaranteed maximum response time of 11 minutes for priority 1 calls within our city limits, but without any enforcement clause. Under the previous contract, the actual response time often exceeded the contractual maximum, even by an intolerable 30 to 45 minutes. But the new enforcement clause of that contract works. In October of 2017, the Rockwall County EMS failed to meet the new response time standard and were penalized $17,500. Since then, the RCEMS, the Rockwall County Emergency Medical Service, has been in full compliance. Medical emergencies continue to account for more than half of all other emergency call types combined. This is why Rockwall County EMS's 8-minute maximum response time standard, providing for the highest level of care available, is such a notable improvement to public safety in McLendon-Chisholm. Medical emergency calls continue to make up more than half of all other call types covered by the McLendon-Chisholm Volunteer Fire Department, which is restricted to performing only basic life-saving services and can only strive for a maximum response time of 9.5 minutes without any guarantees. Therefore, the new contract with the Rockwall County EMS, with its fully enforceable guaranteed 8-minute maximum response time providing for advanced life-saving services, makes EMS calls to the MCVFD unnecessary. Accordingly, during the October 10th City Council meeting last year, the fire chief indicated willingness for the MCVFD to negotiate new terms for the 2018 city contract. However, just 3 days following the October 10th meeting, via text message, the fire chief notified Mayor Pro Tem Wayne Orchard that there would be no negotiations. Instead, the fire chief gave the city the following 3 non-negotiable options, which were: 1, continue the current level of funding and service, that's $320,000, providing for 2-person staffing at the station Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. 2, increase the level of funding to $329,000 to add Sunday to the current weekly schedule. Or 3, return to 24-hour all-volunteer service. The chief texted to Orchard, quote, "We may wait until after May to entertain any long-term planning since the direction of the council may change." Now, the medical emergencies is what drove staffing to the fire department. Since OSHA standards require 4 firefighters to be on site before entering a structure fire, the steady increases in funding to the MCVFD was not focused on fire protection to staff the station with a 4-person crew, but emergency medical services. So in 2014, the council increased funding so that the chief could man the station Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., which were the times that most volunteers were working outside of the fire district. This ensured that someone could be on scene of a medical emergency in a more consistent and timely basis where basic medical aid could begin until Rockwall County EMS's advanced life-saving unit and medical professionals arrived. Also in 2014, the fire chief presented a 6-year timeline to integrate the McLendon-Chisholm Volunteer Fire Department into the city, aggressively demanding more increases in taxpayer funding for personnel and equipment as, quote, an investment in the city's future. By 2017, the MCVFD had added 4 full-time employees to the 2-person shifts to cover 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Saturday, with the fire chief now part-time, but at the same salary and making more than double what the former full-time fire chief was paid. All volunteer service from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., however, continued. Since 2014, McLendon-Chisholm taxpayers have paid $709,211 to the MCVFD, starting in 2014 at $57,000 to $320,650 last year, while the $67,500 subsidy from the county has remained flat. Though the majority of MCVFD calls are dispatched to the unincorporated area, as it accounts for 2/3 of the fire district, homeowners there continue to contribute nothing to their fire safety. Last November, the fire chief announced that the MCVFD would not become part of the city after all and will retain all city-funded assets. The MCVFD has also backed out of its agreement to a city-funded certified audit by an independent accounting firm going back 5 years, opting instead to have a CPA of their choosing perform an audit going back 1 year. 4 months later, there's no sign of any audit. Now, the MCVFD has declared that financial audits will only be allowed on new contracts going forward, and only by a CPA of their choosing. In February, the MCVFD appeared to have accepted a proposal to authorize 2 of its active members, excluding the chief, to meet with 2 council members, excluding the mayor, who would be granted full authority to negotiate and make decisions absent the membership or fire chief, which the council had already granted to Mayor Pro Tem Wayne Orchard and Council Member Scott Turnbull. Despite the fact that neither one are listed on any membership roster as of March 22nd, nor were they granted any decision-making authority, the fire chief sent 2 outspoken critics of the city council to negotiate on the MCVFD's behalf. The lead negotiator, who lives next door to the fire chief in the unincorporated area of the fire district, has posted outrage over the city's efforts to try and force those outside the city to start contributing to their fire safety, demanding instead that MC taxpayers continue to foot the bill. For more than 8 weeks, the MCVFD's negotiating team engaged in shell game tactics. 3 special city council meetings were held to expedite approval on what were supposed to be final offers, but each time the council gave its approval, the MCVFD's contract terms changed. On March 20th, 2018, the city presented the MCVFD with a contract that is identical to its current one with Rockwall County, which offers the same per annum funding as the county. Tonight, we are talking about bringing a fire marshal position and fire service consultant. This is not an added staff to our city, and Councilmember Turnbull will explain that all of the hubbub, all of the anger and rancor is really for naught. You know, I think it's Proverbs 18:5 says A fool does not delight in understanding, but only in revealing their own mind. And it's interesting how those who wanted answers have left the room. We have selected and we have invited James William Simmons to be the new fire marshal. Mr. Simmons began his public safety career 20 years ago. He has a long list of credentials that he currently has had an active status of: driver operator aerial, advanced fire investigator, fire officer 2, driver operator pumper, instructor 3, hazardous materials technician, advanced fire inspector, advanced structure firefighter. He's been employed with the North Texas Fire Academy, Rockwall Volunteer Fire Department, Heath Department of Public Safety, Saxe Fire Department, Fate Department of Public Safety, is the Assistant Chief of Public Safety for the Police, Fire, and Rescue. In 1998, he began working on the family business North Texas Fire Academy. They have trained individuals to become firefighters in the United States, Canada, and Saudi Arabia. He serves Rockwall County as a fire marshal, who is only responsible for the unincorporated area. In 2000, so people were asking, why are we all paying for it since the county already pays that? That's the reason. He only is responsible for the unincorporated area. In 2011, the family business was invited to Saudi Arabia Petrochemical Company to start training their emergency response team members and full-time firefighters. They travel 2 to 3 times a year to Saudi Arabia to train personnel with different companies. Overseas, he assisted in building up fire departments and training programs. He has assisted men and women to be able to do high-angle, low-angle rescues, incident command, emergency management, driver operator, and fire ground tactics, just to name a few. Mr. Simmons has worked hard for many years. He has the respect of many in this community, including those who serve on the McLendon-Chisholm Volunteer Fire Department. He enjoys the outdoors and desires to pass on his knowledge and abilities so that those in training will become successful in reaching their true potential, to be able to be the best of the best in the fire suppression industry. Now, I'm going to invite Mr. Simmons up in a minute, and before I do, I'm going to hand the floor over to either Mr. Orchard or Mr. Turnbull. Mr. Orchard, I'm handing it over to you.
So for the reason that we need to have a fire marshal in for the city of McLendon-Chisholm is there certain things that has to be done by a fire marshal, and that there is no one else that is qualified for those services other than Jim Simmons as on a local basis. It made sense, as the county uses Mr. Simmons, that we would also, as Mayor Steinhagen talked about, this is not a full-time position, this is not a part-time position, this is an at-will position. So he is paid for services rendered when those services are needed. If it is a grease trap, a smoke alarm, whatever it may be, or an arson investigation, he is going to be brought in and asked to do those services. Those services are at $50 an hour. That is pretty cheap if you go out and look for these types of services. I know Assistant Chief Simmons, personally from being on the MCVFD myself, I think he's a great guy that serves many communities and has always been willing to help, and so I think it's great that we were able to find Mr. Simmons to come in and help out with this position.
And Ms. Balcom, he's also helping your committee, is that correct?
Yes, he was one of the first ones to be a guest speaker. Yes, he was one of the first ones to be our guest speaker at our ad hoc committee to determine our feasibility study, workstation, all that stuff. So I'm very pleased with him and his knowledge and his willingness to help us out, and I'm just very thankful for him.
Mr. Turnbull?
I've had numerous conversations with Mr. Simmons about his history, his skills. He has been very forthcoming with suggestions as to what we may or may not do. He has experience setting up a department. So the use of him as our fire marshal is one thing. We've also decided to use him as our consultant for helping set up our city fire department as we move forward. And he has graciously, thank you, agreed to do so at the same rate as what he serves as the fire marshal. Right now, that's all I really have to say about it.
Yeah. Where's the former councilman who was asking all the questions? He's not even in here. So, no, I'm, excuse me, sir, I'm not, you're out of order. If you continue, I'm going to ask you to leave. The gentleman who had asked questions before was wondering why we're kind of jumping off a cliff, and as this shows and proves, we're not jumping off any cliff. We've made no decisions. We are preparing to move forward. The committee is still deciding what to do. And do you know, the thing that really is interesting to me is 4 years ago when these monumental changes started taking place, this exponential exponential increases in funding, no study, no research was done on this. No experts were called in. And, you know, I think what we're doing is we're doing due diligence. Are we going to have a city-owned fire department? It appears as though that's the case. Is that our desire? Has that ever been our desire? No, not necessarily. But as the facts lay out, we've been forced to ensure that the protection of our city is always there. So we're making strides to move forward, and it's unfortunate that there's so much misinformation. And the fact is, the half-truths are not coming from this body. On a radio program today, the amount of not even half-truths. How many lies did you actually count today? You said 4, and you were halfway through. I mean, this is sickening that people are playing politics with our public safety while we are diligently seeing a problem. And I just want to reiterate one other thing, that in October, when we asked the fire chief and the treasurer of the fire department, hey, we want to negotiate, I think every one of us had the mindset of we're going to continue funding you at the level. We just want to figure out, how does this new EMS contract really change things? How can we work together to try to create other solutions? Because we didn't have anything concocted in our head about what we were trying to accomplish. We genuinely were hoping and expecting to work with the fire department. The fact that the door was slammed shut is not our fault. And in fact, we have been diligent to try to get back to the negotiating table over and over and over again. Any other comments from the council?
So I told Mr. Park.
Yeah, we need to kind of. I'm sorry, Mr. Simmons. You need to bring.
Yeah, he needs to go.
So
Okay.
you can answer.
Yeah. So, Mr. Simmons, would you mind coming up to the podium real quick?
I don't blame you.
You've got your arm.
He's over here, though. You know. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to be on this side.
No, that's right.
Be over there.
Hang out here for a little bit. Good evening.
Good evening.
interesting to hear the politics going in the city of McLendon-Chisholm. I can promise you one thing, my expertise is not standing in front of a podium talking into a microphone, so I apologize ahead of time. I'm excited to help out however I can. As you heard, it's a contract, it's not a full-time job. The rate that was talked about was, as you heard, $50 an hour. If you look at consulting fees, I'm nowhere near those prices. I'm not looking to get rich at this. I enjoy the job. I've been in public safety for 20 years. If I can help the city out in any way, whether bringing MCVFD back to the table or doing whatever I need to for the city of the fire marshal's office, by all means, that's what I'm going to do. I'm sorry, ma'am?
Okay, we're in the process of determining all of that, so we've not made decisions, and he is helping us to do that. So don't be on record. The problem is you say something and then it gets printed and they use it as gospel. That's the problem.
But I have what I would use. That's all I'm stating. I'm
Yes.
not making any statements about what the council or what the city's giving me or anything like that. Just the common tools that I would use in a fire investigation, or if it's an inspection, it's paper and pen.
Anyone on the council have questions?
Well, so would you like to share that, your experience with building up fire departments? I mean, one of the things that I liked about what you shared with us is that, you're actually in it. You know how to build it from the ground up. So whenever we're going through our process with the feasibility study and the statement of work, and remember when a consultant's going to come back with a proposal, I'm hoping that you're going to be able to decipher through the information that we're going to have and be able to say, yeah, this is something, you should probably consider or recommend, these types of things. Is this something that, can you give encouragement to the people that this is what you're going to be looking at?
Absolutely. Like I stated earlier, whatever the city needs me to do, if it's communicating with MCVFD again to maybe get us all back to the table where we can have cooler heads prevail and discuss what's best for the citizens, that's our primary goal. That's my goal. It's what's best for the citizens. So if that's part of it, that's what I'm doing. I was fortunate enough to be a part of Fate DPS, building blocks in the beginning. It was a volunteer fire department. It was a professional volunteer fire department. Rockwall County Sheriff's Department was a law enforcement agency. The amount of money that the city was spending with the professional volunteer fire department and then what the fees were that they were spending with the county, they decided to establish their own DPS. So I was fortunate enough to come in the beginning and be a part of that department from the ground up. I'm no expert by any means. I'm not standing up here saying I'm an expert, but I do have a little bit of knowledge that I hope to be able to pass on.
And may I
And I
ask
don't like talking about myself, so that's another tough one, standing here and then having to do that.
Yeah, can you explain a little bit about the experience of a fire chief, like what it takes to be an experienced fire chief with I think it was the HOD form and
The head of department?
Yes, can you explain to get to that point as a fire chief, the experience that goes behind it? I mean, there's like a recommendation letter. They have to work for another fire department.
There's a long process. Part of it is the years of experience. There's multiple ways you can achieve head of department. One of them is as a volunteer fire chief or volunteer member with so many other requirements. And honestly, I don't know it off the back of my hand, but and it's usually tough to achieve. For a full-time paid firefighter, it's 5 years of experience. Once you apply for head of department, then you have to go to Texas Commission on Fire Protection and sit before their board and just observe and watch their meeting for a day. Plus, we meet with the Texas Commission on Fire Protection compliance officer, which is Bob Manley, to go over a whole bunch of basically skills to make sure that you are prepared to sit in that position as head of department.
Awesome. Well, thank
you so much. It's a long process. It's not easy. You got a year to achieve it.
You have a year to achieve it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate your.
Absolutely.
And you are you are also head of department, officially the head of the department, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So we are, just to let people know, we are literally in process, and it is a fairly substantial process of applying for grants, where the deadline is coming up quickly. We've got the city secretary working diligently on that. And so we are running up very, very, I mean, deadline's almost here, so that has been a fervent effort, and so I think that will help tremendously as well. So,
one thing that people are asking, well, why are you going down this direction? Why are you going down this direction of city, municipal owned fire department? Again, right now we don't have a fire contract, and it would be irresponsible, I think, of the council to just sit here and go, well, let's see what happens in May. I'm here today to make determination of the future of the city, not what's happening in May. And so, Jim, and I told him on a couple of conversations that I had with him, I said, at any point in time, we're making a stupid decision. You come up and say, you're making a stupid decision. And he has assured me that he would do that. And with confidence, I would say, thank you. So, we're using Mr. Simmons, not only to set up what needs to be set up, because it's a lengthy process. And so if it goes down that road, if for whatever reason, if we still can't come together with the volunteer fire department, we've got to do something. And so prepare for that now. If it doesn't come, if it doesn't come to that, what have we done? We've probably learned a lot. Maybe Mr. Simmons some gas money.
make our department better.
But right, and if it doesn't naturally progress to that, okay. But if it does need to go to that, I'd rather start that process now. And people ask me, about, contracts and deadlines and stuff like that. Man, I'm just trying to expedite a fire protection service for us. I live in the city just like everybody else. And I want to make sure that me, my neighbors, everyone else is safe. So that's the plan is if we can't come together with MCVFD somehow, some way, then we need to have a city-owned fire department. Now, we've sat down, we've talked with them about bringing them in. Mr. Simmons knows all this. He's seen everything. He's seen all the documents and all, and the thing is we couldn't get to that at that point in time. Timing, whatever it is, but Mr. Simmons says, hey, he will help come in and try to see what are these options? What is going to take to protect the citizens? And so that's why I like Mr. Simmons in coming in and being, not only the fire marshal, but being the consultant in order to help this process. He has what it takes, because you have to be a head of department in order to establish a fire department. Certain documents has to be done with those qualifications. And just thankfully, God bless, we have someone here that is able to do that. But again, we're not jumping off cliffs. We're not obligating the city to anything. And just as I ran, and I'll tell you today, before I obligate anybody for additional taxes, for bonds, for anything else, you're going to have a say-so in it. So we're not just going out and seeing what, that's why what's the cost and stuff? We've got some numbers. We've seen what's out there. We know that what a truck costs and used, and there's leasing. There's a lot of options that you can go about. And then that's what Mr. Simmons, I am relying on Mr. Simmons and his guidance, because we don't have that. That's why you bring in an expert to try to help us out. Again, we're trying to get to a place where we have fire protection, and that's really all that I care about.
I'd just like to add as well is like, you know, one of the things that I kept on hearing when I first came into being a council member was like, what is your plan? What is your plan? Well, you know what? I don't have a plan yet. You know, it takes time to actually get information on that and collect it and all that, and that's what the whole point of the feasibility study. In fact, I was in a conversation with Chief Richardson from Capel, and he basically encouraged the ad hoc committee that said, hey, you know, this is something every city should be doing. Every city should be doing feasibility planning whenever you're trying to do anything with money. You know, people who are having to decide, like, you know, what to do with your tax money, I think that there should be a transparency to show, like, well, what are you going to do with your money? There wasn't any type of communication in the past about how the whole city hall came about, and so all I'm trying to do here is be transparent and say, look, I suggested back in October to do a feasibility study, which, by the way, I had no idea that the city council would be well receiving this at all, because it was so radical that I would actually propose, hey, we probably need to find out how much all this stuff is actually costing before we just go ahead and sign a check here to MCVFD without negotiating possibly on a different type of contract. So, you know, and so when I started doing the study and started doing information, I mean, I did peer-to-city information, and that's all through the minutes. You can find out all the information through there. We did presentations. Another council member did numbers as well. Even Mayor Steinhagen has also run numbers with the Rockwall County Sheriff's information. And there's just been so much that shows us that we need to do the due diligence to figure out what it is going to cost for all these different types of services, as well as the equipment and all that kind of stuff, because we really don't know. And so this whole feasibility study is a very, very good thing. And in the end, citizens are going to be involved in this, because we're going to be able to present all this information and get your input. And it's going to be a great day for everybody to be a part of this, that you're being a part of a historic thing of seeing us expand our future. And even if at that point that everybody decides, you know what, I don't really want to do this, or I don't want to do this part, you will have a say at that point. We can't put that on the ballot. Only the things that we can put on the ballot is like bond issues. So if it comes to the consultant to recommend that we would have to do a bond to increase taxes or whatever, hey, I'm in that position right now to tell you that I am not going to sit there and pass a bond without the majority people saying that that's what they want. If you want that, then you have to vote for it. I think that that's important for people to be able to decide on at the end of the day. So anyway, so I encourage you guys, this is a very, very good thing, and other fire chiefs in other cities, city management, city planners, all sorts of people that are seeing you know, changes in their government, they want to improve services or do different types of structures, they do feasibility studies, and so that's what we're trying to do here.
You have anything else? No. Mr. Simmons, thank you very much. And can you turn that mic off so that we save battery? Oh, wait a minute. Mr. Herron has something for you. I apologize. Mr. Herron.
I just want to say thank you. Thank you for willing to come forward and be part of this and help us out. I look forward to you actually helping us solve some of our problems. I also look forward to you being a channel between us and the MCVFD, because we've had kind of a contentious relationship so far. I would really look forward to somebody having the ability to go in and talk to them, somebody that they respect, and be able to, you know, talk on our behalf, because for some reason we've gotten to a point now where there's no negotiations, there's no discussions, and I really look forward to having you be able to go in there on our behalf and talk to them, but also be able to take their information and bring it back to us soundly and logically, because a lot of times there's some kind of divide that's been between us. So I appreciate you being willing to step forward and be part of this to help us out. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Appreciate it. All right, we move on to, all right, thank you, yes.
Mayor,
yes, sir.
Since we're on that subject,
you want to move?
I'd like to move item 14 and 15 up.
That's fine.
And talk about right now.
Without so moved without objection. So let's move to fire protection services. You want to go to 14 and then 15, or 15
Yeah,
and 14?
yeah, I think it's 14, runs right into 15. As the council knows, and I think everyone knows, that there is a contract that is of the same ilk of the county contract on a per annum basis of $67.5 for fire protection services for McLendon-Chisholm. The members have received that, have looked at that, and they did not have a vote of approval on it this past Tuesday. Scott Turnbull and myself, and now possibly Mr. Simmons, I'll have to get together with you on your schedule to meet with the MCVFD representatives later this week and discuss their feedback based off of that contract. So as of right now, I don't have any updates as far as a contract moving forward, or what was the disapproval, process. After we meet, hopefully we'll be able to give that update.
Mr. Turnbull, do you have anything to add, since you're part of that negotiating team?
Not at this time, no.
All right, so moving on to item 15. Mr. Turnbull, would you like to address this item? This is for discussion and action regarding an ordinance establishing the McLendon-Chisholm Fire Rescue Department as the city's official fire department.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to move that we pass an ordinance of the city of McLendon-Chisholm, Texas, amending the Code of Ordinance in Chapter 5, Fire Prevention and Protection, by adding a new Article 5.03, organizing the McLendon-Chisholm Fire Rescue Department, providing a repealing clause, providing a savings clause, providing a severability clause, providing for a penalty or fine not to exceed the sum of $2,000 for each offense, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, there's a motion on the table by Council Member Turnbull on this ordinance 2018. What was the 2018 what?
Yeah, this doesn't have it on it.
Okay.
Sign them after,
All right, is there a second?
probably 01.
Probably 01, okay.
Second.
All right, Councilmember Balkum has seconded the motion. Mr. Turnbull, you have the floor to speak to your motion.
Well, I would like to say that we're doing this because we have been successful in joining forces with McLendon-Chisholm Volunteer Fire Department. But for those who say that we don't listen to what is said to us, the message that I've gotten is you want fire protection, you want EMS services, you want rescue services. And if we can't get a contract with our former provider, then our option is to start our own. And that's what we're doing. And as we've said before, Mr. Simmons is going to help us do that, and we thank you again. And with that, I'll let other members.
Councilmember Balkum, you seconded the motion. You have the floor.
I have nothing else to say.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries unanimously. All right, now on to more fun things, and that's the NCAA Tournament Challenge winner. As they say, as the old saying goes, even a blind squirrel finds a nut. And the mayor is the winner of this year's NCAA championship. I chose Villanova, with Villanova and Michigan being in the final, and A&M just barely missed the finals. Now, the question obviously is, would the mayor's name be on that plaque? Heck no. My opinion is that this tradition should only be for the mayor. This is a challenge to the mayor. So, Joselito, if you're watching, I got you this year, and you can come back at me next year if I'm mayor. And but regardless, I'll be playing next year for sure. So I hope he'll go back into it. But anyway, thank you for everyone who participated. It was funny. A lot of people started out and then they started losing their brackets. One guy, a fellow Aggie, did not choose A&M. I let everybody have 2 brackets, and so I had 2 brackets. One of them was A&M going to the finals, winning the championship, and he didn't have A&M. And so I think he basically just pulled his whole bracket out when I think, I mean, it was shortly after UVA lost. Huh?
Who won?
Nova, Villanova. Yeah, it was a pretty good game. But anyway, it was a fun tournament this year, and especially because both A&M and my wife's beloved K-State Wildcats, and Mr. Turnbull's beloved Wildcats, they actually did pretty good this year. They surprised a lot of people, beating well, everybody thought they'd be defeated in that first go-round, but they defeated Kentucky and UMBC, so it's good. So thank you to everyone who participated. So maybe next year someone's name will be on the bracket, but maybe not. Okay, we're moving to item number 8, approval of the minutes. Councilmember Balkum, would you like to recognize you for a motion?
For the minutes?
Yes. Have you had time to read through the minutes?
Yes. Was it corrected?
Yes, I put the revised version in your packets
Okay.
late today.
Okay, would you
Yes.
mind if we tabled it and posted it to the website as a draft? My 86-year-old dad reads the minutes, and he calls me whenever they're not. He's like, didn't y'all meet? So he actually reads the minutes. So would you mind posting it as a draft? I have not gone through the changes, so if that's okay.
All right.
No objection?
No objection.
Thank you. All right, so there's we're moved to item 8, resolution approving purchasing cooperative interlocal participation agreement, and our city secretary and slash assistant city administrator, I just cannot say enough about the work that she does, and so she comes up with these things. She calls me and she says, hey, I got this thing, I want to talk about it, I think it's good for the city. I'm like, are you kidding me? Yeah, of course we can talk about it. So Lisa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually requested to put this item on the agenda. This is a resolution for the city to enter into a local government purchasing cooperative interlocal participation agreement. It's a lot of words for something that a lot of people around the Metroplex just know as buy board. It's a purchasing cooperative with the idea that other cities come together in an interlocal agreement to buy things that would cost us to buy little individual items, seeking vendors a lot more money. But vendors join the co-op. There's no cost for the city to join the co-op. But we kind of get the purchasing power of big numbers, even though we're just one single small city. So the benefit of being a member is purchasing in numbers greater than just one city. By joining with the other member cities, we ensure we're getting the best deals out there, whether it's for small or large purchases for either an item or services, just goods or services. It saves staff time and eliminates the need for myself or Dave or anyone else to call around and get a bunch of different prices. Or if we decide it's a big item and we need to do an RFP, it simplifies the process and it ensures that we're meeting all of the state procurement requirements. So you just kind of go on to buy board, you log into it, it's all automated, you enter what you're looking for, you put a deadline on it, and then all these vendors that are members will, if they're interested, they'll jump on it. And because of the competitive bid process, you think it seems like we're gonna get a better deal on most items. One example is our copier lease is up. And we're actually, this month we started doing month to month. I called them and said, can we just continue what we're doing? And they said, sure. I actually asked them, are you a member of the buy board? And they said, oh, no. He said, we can never beat their deals out there. He said, but I hope you'll still give us a chance to bid on that. And I said, sure. But I'm hoping that that's one of the things that we'll get a better deal on. And they're just little things, but for the most part, that come up that our little terms run out on. If we do something like have our fire department eventually purchase equipment, you can pretty much buy anything off the buy board. So from vehicles, including fire equipment or just everyday vehicles, cold mix asphalt if we ever get into street fixing, awards or trophies should you want to order something for next year, all kinds of supplies, copiers, print services, custodial services, maintenance. I've just got on and on here. So anything from first aid equipment and AEDs that
Do
you'd
they have,
mentioned.
Oh, yeah.
you said print services, was it large, oversized prints?
Probably if you're going to purchase something, you know, maybe even if we did the survey, if we wanted to print something for something that size that would go out to the whole city.
So nothing like poster board displays?
Probably not for, you know, one or two, but if you were going to do a large print job, it would be worth checking into.
Okay.
So this is for kind of large purchases for what is, I realize, relative, but it's not something we'd go to Office Depot, paper clips and things like that.
No, it's something we would spend we're going to enter into a contract for something for a year's worth of copier lease or 2 years or whatever. We want to make sure that we're getting a competitive price on that. If we just go out and we start calling around, I've only got so much time to call different places. I'm not going to call 50, but I'm going to try to get the best deal for us. But this just saves time, it saves staff time, and hopefully through competition is kind of the American way. We get a lower price, we get the best price out there, and we feel pretty good about it. When those bids come back, we've just got them all, and actually the buy board will actually select for you what they feel is the best option for what you put in. They kind of come back and say, oh, this looks like it's the best deal. It's still up to the city whether to accept it or not. And you have no obligation to use the buy board. So just because we're a member doesn't mean that we always have to use it. It's just a tool in the toolbox. So we can choose to use it. You can put a bid out that way. You can put bids other places if you want, and you can do it however. But it's just another way to kind of ensure that we're trying to get the best deal that we can and use the city's money wisely.
So what is the benefit to the business? I mean, how do they get in? Do they have to pay to be a member?
I don't think they pay to be a member either. There may be some sort of a small fee that they pay, but they just know that that's where the business is. And so especially, you know, some large cities are members, lots of large cities are members. They buy stuff continuously. Fleet, for instance, large cities have whole fleets of cars and trucks for various things, and they turn them over. You know, they will replace so many a year. So they'll go out to bid for various things. Or if I used to work for the city of Garland, they fix their own streets, and they have to buy all these supplies to do such. And so they're fixing potholes on a regular basis, so they're going to buy the asphalt mix and the other equipment to do that with. So they kind of use it on a regular basis. I'm sure we wouldn't use it nearly as frequently as some of those larger cities, but even if we used it 6 times a year, I would feel better about the purchases that we're making, that I'd feel more confident that, you know, maybe we got the best deal rather than wondering if we got the best deal or finding out 2 or 3 weeks later, gosh, I could have gotten that for cheaper if I'd gone somewhere else.
What does it cost to us?
Nothing. Nothing to be a member.
What about the warranty? Like if like a product ends up, because you mentioned asphalt. I don't know anything about asphalt, but as far as like what would it take to, is there any warranty issues on the product?
I don't think so. Part of the agreement, the interlocal, is that you agree to pay for the services that you sign up for. You know, if we accept a bid on something, we agree to actually follow through with our payment. The vendors on the other side agree to supply whatever it is that they've agreed to supply us, whether it's a good or a service. So as far as warranties, I can't tell you exactly what it is, but they are bound by the agreement to follow through with whatever it is that they've decided that they want to offer us for service or for goods.
So how many purchases do we need to make to stay a member?
Nothing.
Nothing?
There's no obligation to use it at all. We could just become a member and never use it if you want to, and nothing happens.
Awesome. So it doesn't cost us anything?
Does not cost us a thing.
All right.
There are other purchasing co-ops out there. This just seems to be the one that's most widely used. I called a couple of other cities in the nearby areas, and they said, you know, it was great. They're members sometimes of other ones as well. This just seems to be the easiest one as far as to just log on. You can do it quickly, put a deadline of a week or 2 on it, and you know, you open it up and you can see all these bids that have come in. So just seemed like a really neat tool to have, and it's free.
Any other comments? Okay.
I just have a comment. You know, having dealt with the governmental acquisition process, it's very, very complicated and very, very expensive. We don't have a very big staff, and for them to have to go through all the process of going out and getting competitive bids and to make sure that they're doing everything that's according to the regulations, that takes a lot of their time. To be able to utilize something like this is very beneficial, not only for them, but for us, because it saves time, it saves money, it saves, and we have better buying power. To be able to go out there as a small city like McLendon-Chisholm and buy with the same power as somebody like Dallas or Fort Worth, that's great buying power. So this is a great thing. I think that we definitely want to approve this.
Do we know what other cities are members of this co-op?
I think everyone in Rockwall County is a member
Okay.
for sure.
Okay. What are we missing? What is the drawback?
I couldn't find any.
Any other discussion, Mr. Orchard?
So I've got clients that are municipalities that are in co-op buying, and it's strength of numbers, you know, so it is as you know, vendor two services, they beat you up, you know, to try to get the best price, best service, you know, possibly special incentives, warranties, stuff like that, that only that buying co-op will have. So you know, I've never really thought about it as far as, you know, us, you know, doing something like that. I'm glad that you know, thought of it and researched it out and found the info, because, you know, from the information I know, just being on the other side of things, it's a great opportunity for cities to get the best deals.
I was going to print you the vendor list, but it was actually 400 pages in length. So I didn't even try to attach it to your packets because it probably would have bogged down the system. But people are attracted to it because they just know that cities, you know, go there to purchase things. So it's just a common place to connect the two parties, so the purchaser and the supplier.
Yeah. Any other discussion or questions? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Turnbull is moved to approve the resolution purchasing cooperative interlocal participation agreement. Is there a second?
I second.
Councilmember Balcom is seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, the motion passes by unanimous consent without exception. Next item is street lighting. Is the gentleman who sent us the email in the room regarding this issue?
No,
okay. Well, we received a complaint from a citizen who basically is concerned about the lighting around the Sonoma Verde entrance, and I sent Lisa a message and said, hey, let's just put this on the agenda. And I think 45 minutes later, Wayne Orchard does the same thing. And so, I mean, that's kind of the way we like to work. When we see a problem, we try to fix these, you know, talk about them in an open session. But the great news is, so the problem is safety, and when there's so much traffic coming in and out of that development, that there is a concern. Now, our concern obviously was, well, do we really have any power to do that? Well, as Mr. City Administrator Dave Butler has been doing some checking and dug around and has a pretty cool answer for us. So Mr. Butler, and a little bit of a wrinkle too, but go ahead, Mr. Butler.
And the wrinkle would be historically, how's that?
Nope.
Historically, when Sonoma Verdes built their entryway there, they had lights on the monument, they had lights on the clock and all of that. And I, quite honestly, have not been down there in the evening, so I don't know if they're lighting them or not. But at one point in time, there was a complaint from a citizen down there that the lights were too bright and it was affecting their ability to sleep at night, and asked that they turn them off, and so they did. So now, that's the conundrum you have, is that do we have them turn the lights back on if they're not being used now to help light the entrance? Or do we go with, do we go with the option that I learned from Encore, and that is they will put up 2 street lights if we want them. There's 2 poles there, you could put one either side of the intersection, and they would put them up at no cost. The problem that you'll get into, though, is if the citizens there complain that it's too bright and they can't sleep and all that, and you have to take them back down again, they'll charge you. So they'll put them up for nothing, but they won't take them down for free. So that's good news. The only thing we'll have to pay for is the additional electricity. They use LED lights, and so I don't know exactly
what that usage would be as relates to the rest of the city, but.
That's funded by the PID, would pay for it, you're saying we.
Right. Whoever
So-
pays the bill, but yes. And that could actually be funded by the PID. Well, they're not charged to put
Would
them
be
up.
funded by the PID,
Right,
correct?
right.
Okay.
So, in any event, I'd look for you guys to give me the direction tonight whether or not you want to go forward with it or not, knowing that there is a citizen who lives out there close by who complained about the street lights, and the lights from the entrance of Sonoma Verde. In the past, that's before you guys were seated.
Since Councilmember Balkum lives in Sonoma Verde,
Well, I think that we need to talk to Mr. Russell Phillips, because if I'm understanding, you're saying that the electric bill would be, coming out from the PID?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the entrance to Sonoma Verde.
it's LED.
Well, I understand that, but I just remember when we first moved in, that there was either on both sides, the neighbors were complaining about the clock tower. And so I just think that we need to, make sure we know what exactly, where the pole is going.
They're there already. If you drive in, you can see there's a pole either side of the entryway.
So you're saying that just a light bulb needs to be added, or an LED light?
Well, they'll hang the hardware up there to put the light on it, yeah.
Okay. All right, well, another issue is that, from my understanding, is that he was planning to add more lighting. So, just to make sure, maybe we should talk to him first and see what his plans were. I think it was supposed to be incorporated in phase 2.
Okay.
For lighting. So I think that would be fair. Because it is a little bit dark whenever you're trying to turn in, because there's only about, there's the clock tower, and then there's a couple of light sources on the signage, and then sometimes, when it gets kind of dark at night, the light may be off because the bulb, I'm not sure if it's a short or something that's happening, because it happens, it seems like every quarter, the light just goes out. And so it needs to be repaired, and so then it takes about a week or so for it to get all the light back up. So it'd probably be a good idea to consider other types of light sources, not necessarily a pole. But I would invite him to know about this information.
So is the light something that is going to be projecting into into 205? Is that where the light is going?
It'll probably project directly down.
Yeah.
Into the entrance.
As the street light does.
Because you got it on both sides. So, one, definitely, I think Russell Phillips needs to be part of the discussion before any action is taken. Two would be that I can see how the lights on the tower, could be reflected off of people's windows and stuff on 205. I think on those poles where you're talking, that would be a straight down onto, the concrete, not facing out anywhere projecting, again, that would, so that way when people are turning in, they know we're turning in, not hit curbs and so on. I think that it's good information to find out that Encore will just come out and, finish those out and provide that service there. But I think that Mr. Phillips needs to kind of be wrapped into this, because he may already have plans for something, so I think that would be probably the second step of this, and then making a decision based off of all that information. But I don't believe a downlight is gonna,
Because they're
be
turning
reflected.
into, that's the see, the signage is kind of low, and if you're driving down at night and you're trying to find where to turn,
Right.
and I'm not trying to understand, like, the light's pointing down,
Yes.
I don't know if that's gonna help as far as like being able to see, especially if a person's kind of new to the area and where to turn in.
Well, so you have it on both sides. And then, so after I got the complaint one evening, I went, down there to see exactly what the issue was. And it is, as you're coming up 205, where do I need to turn? And down, it's not like gonna be a spotlight, just one. I'm just saying that it's, the lights that are on the clock, I remember were kind of up and out, you know, and it was kind of the beacon of, hey, here, you know, but if that was causing an issue with other residents, I can understand why Mr. Phillips, you know, decided to, you know, turn them off. You know, maybe there's something else there that can be done, projecting the lights on the tower a different way, or something along with that.
Well, can the light source also be on the opposite side of the street? Did you say that it can be?
There's no poles over there.
Well, I just have to ask. I'm not sure.
Are we gonna have some discussion on this?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
I received that same email, and basically, when I got it, I turned around and I sent an email to Adrian, and I basically said, this sounds like an HOA issue. This is not a city issue. That's not a TxDOT or a city issue to put in lights on their entryway to a subdivision.
Well, the reason it is a city issue is because we own the streets.
The problem is that we own lots of streets, and if we do this in that street, all of the other streets, corners that don't have lights on them, we suddenly become, this, we talked about the slippery slope last time, about us taking on and doing things that aren't required, like Frontier Trail Road. This becomes one of those situations. Do we go out there and put in lights at every intersection?
Good point. Mr. Butler, does the HOA have the power to do this without or does the city have to make that determination? And obviously, Mr. Phillips is gonna have to be in on all this.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what involvement monetarily the HOA would have, whereas Encore is willing to do it for the city for no cost. If you do it for an HOA, there may be a cost involved.
Was there a cost, one more time, I'm sorry, was there a cost if we did ask
Not to install.
hypothetically on the opposite side of the street?
No, I didn't ask that, but I can tell you there probably is going to be, because there's substantial poles they have to put up there.
There's not already a structure there, power to it, and everything established. The reason I'm, of course, saying, yeah, we can do it there is because there's already poles there. So now they just need to do the finish out on the top and throw it to some meter.
Okay, I just needed to ask to make sure I covered that.
Yeah. It's a great point. So
Yeah, and not necessarily saying that this is a city, it just, you know, again, this is, you know, a citizen that's concerned, you know,
concerned about our safety.
Right, right, of turning in and people coming out, and so I certainly understand. But, you know, one of the things of the council is we're here to hopefully help resolve any issue. You know, I'm not saying that this is a city issue or city responsibility, it's just what, you know, what can we do in order to help the situation? Again, that's why I said, you know, I think Mr. Phillips, because it's on his property. I mean, where the poles are, you know, is on his property in the entrance, you know, so we need to, you know, discuss that with him. And I think Adrian had already talked about that there was possibly already plans to, you know, turn that on. So I think this is the first part of the discussion. We received some good information. And then we need to find out now a little bit more, get Mr. Phillips now involved, that we have that information, and then we'll be able to make a determination, you know, hopefully at the next meeting.
And one other thing, and just to confirm, is that, so who's responsible for putting those tacks on the, you know, those little square things or turtles, I think I used to call them turtles. They're not speed bumps, but they have like reflective gear on it, on the road. Who's responsible for that?
You're talking about bots, dots?
I don't know what they're called, but.
Reflective deals, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
It depends where the road is. If it's a state highway, the state's responsible. If it's in Sonoma Verde, it could be the city's responsibility.
So the part that's right in front of Sonoma Verde where you turn left, could we make a request to have some more of those put out? Is that possible?
Sure.
Do you know if there's a cost?
I don't imagine there would be, but I can talk to the TxDOT guys and see. You're talking about in the left turn lane?
Yes, and then, you know, we also need to address about the issue, because you brought up about the bumps, just turning left, it needs to kind of be repaired. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was brought up at the last Roads Consortium, and that was passed off. They're gonna actually send somebody out there to take a look at that, to determine whose responsibility, whether that's gonna end up being TxDOT's responsibility, or whether the Sonoma Verde were responsible, because most of the damage is probably due to all of the vehicles, the building vehicles, construction vehicles that turn in and out of there. So it may end up being a responsibility of Russell Phillips and the and his development to fix that problem, so. But it has been passed to TxDOT, and TxDOT has said that they're gonna send somebody out there to take a look at it.
So can you look into that, Mr. Butler?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Just out of curiosity, are we talking about the front entrance road?
Yes.
So that front entrance road, has that not been turned over to the city?
The part that we're talking about is 205.
It's 205, it's a left turn lane on 205 into Sonoma Verde. That's on TxDOT property.
So what were you talking about that Russell Phillips would have to pay for?
They'll determine whether the damage to 205 was caused by normal wear and tear, or is it being caused by the builders, their construction vehicles that are causing the, destroying that road prematurely.
Wow, okay.
Well,
Good
there's
luck.
a few dips.
Okay, thank you, that's good to know.
But at the time they do that repair, they could also put the request in that Ms. Baldwin was talking about.
Any other discussion? Mr. Butler, thank you for the time that you put into that, I appreciate it.
I would say, just a note, we should probably put that on the next agenda item.
Sure,
So just,
absolutely.
We can remedy this pretty quickly.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, did we ever find out, Dave, how long?
Are you talking, wait a minute, I apologize, are you talking about,
This subject.
okay, the same,
So
you want the same thing back on this?
Yes, and
Very
then
good.
we'll have an answer from Mr. Phillips, and also the answer that I just requested from Mr. Butler. Did you know how long would it take to get the bulb up on the poles if we were to go down that route?
They would just have to schedule it when approval's available, so the actual time, I don't know.
Okay.
I have to send an email to Cindy Tam and request it.
So we're not talking like 2 months, we're talking like days,
Few
weeks
weeks.
maybe?
Well, it's
Depends what their schedule.
So just as soon as they get approved to do it,
Okay,
I could get more of an idea when I do make the request,
all right, sounds good.
assuming I do. Your instruction is to me next time.
All right, well, that's your deadline, Mr. Butler, next time we have a council meeting.
What, you want him to? you
Have
wa-
an answer.
Oh, can you go ahead and get a time frame from Mrs. Tam? That's what she's asking, okay. All right, very good. Moving on to resolution to establish a social media policy. Mrs. Balkin, you have the floor.
Yes, here we go. Okay, so the social media policy is, we have to put information out to let people know, like when you're going onto a city website or anything that's city related, any information that you're putting out on there is gonna be, it would be a part of the open records request. So we're trying to give people like a heads up to let them know, whatever you put on there, just let you know, this is information that could be obtained through open records request. So there's also a policy within it that talks about our processes of, if it gets to the point where, hang on, I'm just gonna read this so that it will be clear. This is an official City of McLendon-Chisholm, Texas page. All postings on the site are considered public record and may be treated as such under the Texas Public Information Act. Communication made through computer messaging systems shall in no way be deemed to constitute legal notice to the City of McLendon-Chisholm or any of its agencies, officers, employees, agents, or representatives with respect to any existing or potential claim or cause of action. Moderating and posting of comments will occur during regular business hours, Monday through Friday. Comments submitted after hours or on weekends, holidays may be addressed the following business day. This is a moderated channel, meaning all comments will be reviewed for appropriate content in accordance with the city's social media policy. We may remove inappropriate content and may also prevent future posts by that individual. We also report any improper behavior per the terms and conditions of the host social media site. City of McLendon-Chisholm site terms and conditions. If in an emergency, call 911 immediately. This site is not an appropriate option for reporting urgent matters of any type. Please contact the appropriate city department with urgent needs and or complaints. This is an official City of McLendon-Chisholm Texas page. All postings on the site are considered public record and may be treated as such as under the Texas Public Information Act. Communication through computer messaging systems all in no way be deemed to constitute legal notice to the City of McLendon-Chisholm or its agencies, officers, employees, agents, or representatives with respect to any existing or potential claim or cause of action. Content which may be removed is profane language or content, discourteous communications including personal attacks on an individual's character or appearance, content that promotes, fosters, or perpetuates discrimination on the basis of race, creed, color, age, religion, gender, mental status, status with regard to public assistance, physical or mental disability, sexual orientation or national origin, sexual content or links to sexual content, solicitations of commerce, advertisements, conduct of an encouragement of illegal activity, information that may tend to compromise the safety or security of the public or public systems, content that contains personal identifying information or sensitive personal information like your social security number, phone number, that kind of stuff. Content that promotes or endorses ballot measures, political campaigns, or candidates. Content that violates the legal ownership interests of any other party. While the City of McLendon-Chisholm will be retaining the entirety of comments as part of the city's records retention policy, any information will be available to the public. As such, please do not include personal details such as your address, phone number, social security number, or any other information you don't want available to the general public. The City of McLendon-Chisholm logo is a copyrighted graphic and cannot be used in any manner without prior written consent of the City of McLendon-Chisholm, Texas. If you have specific questions regarding a City of McLendon-Chisholm program or service that involves details you do not wish to share publicly, please contact us at our phone number 972-524-2077 or find departmental resources at mclendon-chisholm.com. So this will be posted on the social media, any social media sites that we have, and this is, again, this is standard information that the cities are doing now, so that to let you be forewarned that this will be a policy.
All right, Madam Bargum, I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution. Would you like to make a motion?
Oh, yes, yes. I want to approve.
So it's so moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Councilmember Turnbull is seconded. Okay, Madam Bargum, do you wish to speak to your motion any further?
Lisa, pretty much this is already completed, right? Because I already made my changes and.
Yes, pardon me. What you presented a couple of weeks ago, David and I kind of hit it back and forth all week long, and I think we've come up with the final document. Can I just add something real quick?
Sure.
So in addition to what you've kind of already stated, I think there's been some concern maybe regarding what we might remove. And just kind of so everybody knows, the city would always err on the side of not removing things. We're not out there to try to remove people's posts. The types of things that we would remove or hide, they don't actually really go away, would be things like obscene material, inappropriate links to things, that we shouldn't be out there, threats, and then I think she already mentioned political campaigns or candidates or measures, advertising of things like that. Those are the types of things that if we had to take something down, we would take it down and then notify that person that, this is our policy and went against it, so that's why we're removing it.
And just one thing to add as well is that normally the bigger departments or bigger cities, they have the city attorney contact the commenter directly.
The poster.
Yeah, the poster, because they don't post on the Facebook fan page. This is the only one we have. They can make comments because it's limited. We're the ones that be able to post. So we have a system in place that in this particular situation, if something should happen, then the city attorney would advise Lisa to contact the person directly and give them the message, and that there's a clear message on there that says why their comment was removed, or any step to go further than that.
Very good. Other discussion, Mr. Turnbull.
Yeah, Lisa, is this normal?
Yes.
Other county or other
Usual and
cities in
customary?
Yes,
Rockwall or surrounding counties?
Yes, I can pretty much say that almost anybody really that has a website today is probably going to have some sort of a social media policy in place. The more active communities get with things like Twitter and all the other social media sites, kind of the more urgent their need is. So if it's just a website, maybe they wouldn't have one. More than likely they do. But as we post on a regular basis and you have Facebook and you've got more communication going back and forth 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, there's kind of a need for the policy. One, to protect the citizens' freedom of speech, and also to protect the city from, liability, that things that might be out there that we really just don't want out there because it would be inappropriate content, that sort of thing.
Another thing to add
it
too
is usual and
that there's a
customary.
response time too, because like in the city secretary of state, you work from 9 to 5, and sometimes there's questions that you may answer, and yeah, there's times where I answer, but then there's times where you would answer, but you only answer during normal business hours. And so that needs to be addressed as well, because you have people all over the place that may send information, but they're waiting, for you to respond, and you don't respond like right then and there, they get upset. So this again instructs exactly when most likely you will be able to respond if it needs an appropriate response at that time.
Yes, and it doesn't always require a response, and sometimes people can just post something and it doesn't necessarily require a response from us, but if they're asking a question, and sometimes our response is going to be, please call City Hall and we'll be glad to give you clarification. We may not actually want to go into tons of detail on a Facebook post. It may not just be the best means to provide information. So sometimes the answer may be, please call us and we'd be happy to explain something to you or provide you with information. It's not the place to request open records. It's not an official way to get open records or anything. But this is just to set guidelines so that, I know what to follow. If I had a future assistant someday, that person understands, clear what the policy is. It also reminds people to think before you type. We'd rather respond a little slower and think it through than to react to something quickly and respond inappropriately because, we're all human and we tend to want to react to something. So this just puts it down on paper, and anybody that's going to touch any of our social media sites just needs to read it and be familiar with it, whether it's a volunteer or an elected appointed official or a staff member.
Mr. Trimble? Any other discussion? Hearing none, motion passes by unanimous consent without objection. All right, so moved. Item number 12 is archive social media budget allocation, and this is a really important one, so everybody pay attention because Lisa and I had a long conversation about it, and she's, again, there's another one of those things that she took control of. She brought to my attention, and and there's a reason for this because we've just gone through an open records request, and we want to make sure that we are able to do it in a cost-effective manner for people because it's expensive for us to have to hire somebody to go in and dig up all of those things. So, Ms. Paloma, I'm going to give you the floor again to speak to item number 12.
Okay, this is related actually to the social media policy that we just discussed, and it brings up the point of the policy talks about the need for retention. The Texas State Library and Archives is actually the one that sets the retention schedule. We actually had a policy a long time ago that said that we're going to follow those state guidelines as far as retention. What is retained and for how long it's retained is actually based on content, not necessarily that it was a social media post, but if a citizen provided a complaint, we would have to keep it for the period of time that the Texas State Library and Archives said we would. So it's based on content, not necessarily that it was a post. However, because we want to be careful about keeping track of, we don't want to delete something or hide something because we think it's inappropriate and then have somebody question that later, it's better just to retain almost all of it for a period of time. So I did call around and got some prices, and the thing is that this is, as we grow and we have more and more posts to keep up with, it becomes harder and harder, and I can't watch the site 24/7. And probably even with help of volunteers, it would be too difficult to monitor and make sure that everything is archived. If something was inappropriate we had to delete, we have to make a screenshot, we have to copy it, we have to file it someplace. So I did a little checking, and I also checked with some neighboring cities, and there is a company called Social Archive, and they just work for government agencies. It's all they do is government agencies. And as social media has become more popular means of communication for public agencies, they archive. And they archive in real time. They get the data that you can't even see off the main web page. So they would know who a user was, they would know where it was coming from, they would know who the admin was that maybe deleted a post or hid a post because we thought it was inappropriate. So later on, if there is an open records request and we have to respond to that, this company actually has all that information. And we can actually log in as a city and we can say, okay, I need all the records from here to here, date-wise, or we can put in a content. We can search by user or poster, all different kinds of ways that will make it a lot easier if we do have to go dig up information, whether it's for a legal purpose or open records request or just because we want to know the history of something. If you just wanted to see what comments were on a particular topic over a period of time, we could look that up. But it makes it a lot easier since we do have kind of a limited staff. We don't have an IT department or anything or somebody, public information officer that's just watching it. Makes it easier and takes some of the burden off staff. There is a cost, but we would be on their lowest plan. It is not a contract, so they actually don't do contracts. We can stop this at any time, but the least that they have as far as a month to month is $200 a month, and it's based on how often people post, and that's all it is. So they kind of looked at our usage so far, and they said that we're definitely in this lower category, and they expect that we would be there for some time. So I asked them what it would be for the remaining of the fiscal year, and they suggested it would be $995, assuming we started tomorrow after this, if this is approved. We can stop it at any time. So if after a month or at the end of the fiscal year we decide that we found something better, maybe we go through Buy Board or one of those other places, we find something that's less expensive, or we find a better way to do it, then we can stop. And I think we have to give them 30 days notice is all it is. So this is it's really just kind of insurance or protection for us so that if we need to get that information, we have it right there.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Discussion.
I'm in favor of this only because Lisa does a lot for the city, and I'm telling you, like, she's just awesome in being able to track down information, and the time that it takes to go and search all the stuff and being specific. I mean, this will be a quick directory. I mean, you know, just technically right now, all we can do is screenshots, but then like, how do you file that? You know, to me, it's a really good system, and there's other cities that are doing it, and this will be a really, really good way to, you know, archive the information. And then it's not contracted, you know, for annually. And you know, there was another thing that you brought up to me. I don't think it was addressed about the videos.
Oh yes, YouTube is considered a social media site as well, and I actually had to pay our IT contractors and my computer guy people a couple of hours worth of labor to go back and to archive all of the YouTube and Facebook Live things that we've done so that I could get them on a flash drive and archive those and have them. I didn't want to lose them. I was kind of afraid that, you know, I'd go out there one day and I couldn't find them.
Right.
So I don't have to do that anymore.
So this includes the YouTube.
This is actually
good.
part of that. They'll actually keep up with that for us, so I don't have to go and I don't have to remember, oh, I've got to go and I've got to grab that recording in case something happens to it. So
and remember, those videos are, you know, they can be pretty long, and you know, those little flash sticks are. She's going to start collecting a library here.
Yeah,
you know, so again, this will be a good archiving system. You know, so.
Other discussion.
And just one more thing real quick.
Yes.
They actually will go back and they will, instead of just starting from like tomorrow forward, they actually go back and they will do everything that we've done so far.
Really?
And then carry it forward from here on out. Wow. So it gives me more peace of mind.
I'll say. Mr. Turnbull?
Is there a charge for data storage? Is that included in their
It's just a
fee?
$200 a month fee, nothing extra.
Do they link into email to where they can archive the email, or is it the other way? I saw something in here about
You know, I saw that too about,
365 connector.
I saw that too. I don't know if it works exactly that way or not. I think some people do, you know, store things through 365 or Exchange or something like that. I didn't ask them about archiving email. I guess I could. I think mostly they do just the social media is what their expertise is in, but I could ask them and see if that's an option.
That'd be huge, especially if it's searchable.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. If we're paying for my computer guy to archive, the legal archive, and then we're gonna do this, we don't wanna be, if we can do it all at one place, that'll make it easier to actually do the search.
I'll check. I'll have to ask the sales rep with Social Archive and ask specifically about email. We didn't have a conversation on email. We just talked about those social media sites. But he's supposed to call tomorrow because, of course, he's anxious to get a customer. And I told him we would be deciding tonight. So he's ready to sign us up tomorrow.
Wow.
But I will ask that question. And if there's any additional costs, I'll bring it back to you.
What would be the next bump?
Next bump?
Yep.
It's based on, he said he would give us notice, you know, if we're approaching a level where we would need to bump up. And I think it goes like to 200 to 400. Some of the larger cities, it might be even $1,000 a month if you're a Dallas or you're a Fort Worth. 200 is just the minimum, but he looked at it and he says, like, this is nothing compared to, you know, he said, you'll be within this category for a long time. And it covers any social media we have. So if somebody Twitters or if we do Facebook and YouTube or whatever it is that we add in the future, it's still in that $200.
That's good. Any other discussion?
Just on the Office 365, Mr. Turnbull, I think that integration is where you have the ability to search out from Office 365 to pull it directly into there.
That's what the connector looks like.
Not.
I was just wanting to verify that.
Yeah, but I don't think that it doesn't look like it's the archive that way. It's just it's the pull in. That's where it would go. So,
Madam Baucom, would you like to make a motion?
I'm for it.
Okay. I'll take that as a motion to approve the allocation of the $995 for record keeping. That's going to be through the end of the year, correct?
Yes.
And compliant fiscal year compliance requirements for all city social media platforms. Is there a second? Second. Mr. Turnbull seconds. The motion carries by unanimous consent without objection. I've been asked for a break, so we're going to take a little break and we'll reconvene in 10 minutes or so.
The social media? Yes. I think I do have one. I believe that's it.
Were there any changes to it?
No.
Okay.
Archive Social. This is a company.
Okay. And did they list the metrics? You mentioned that you're on the lowest tier. That means that they've got a defined metric on storage or utilization. I'm just wondering if they...
I don't know if it's spelled out in this brochure or not. I'll tell you what, you're welcome to have that if you'd like.
I can find it. If it's Archive Social, that way you can keep a copy of that. Find the search, won't be a problem. You mentioned they'll go back, if selected, it goes back and they'll archive the content that we have. Is there a recovery model outlined in case you guys do opt to go to another company that effort would be restored?
Yes,
or
they did tell me that they would kind of package it, that gives it to us, so.
Okay. And
I
the
don't know
content
exactly how that works.
Okay, understood.
Technically, but
Understood.
it won't be lost.
That was well, not assuming that it's lost, but just that effort wouldn't be wasted if you move to another company, that whatever metadata they built around it could be shared.
that's actually one of my questions I have for them tomorrow as a follow-up is, how would that work? Should we decide to switch companies and to retain all of that?
Yeah, I mean, 2 in a month starts to add up if you're also paying for an archiving solution for emails and, you know, text or other documents that you guys just build in-house. You guys using like Iron Mountain or?
No.
No? Okay, I'm surprised. All right.
Someday we will have to kind of deal more with the retention issues. Since I've been here, we actually, fortunately, so many records are electronic that we don't have paper stacking up everywhere.
Well, yeah.
But someday we do need to go through and go, okay, we only need to keep this for 5 years.
Store back
We've had
all
it for
the-
10, so we need to go ahead and keep a log and that we're going to delete it and what it is and then delete it. So it's on my list.
Okay. Interesting. See if there's just something else I was going to think about. For the archiving historical things, what's their intention for archiving things that have already been deleted?
I think they can go back and they can see, you know, who did the action and what it was. But
I'm just things through the website. You guys have cycled through a couple of websites. You know what levels of backups or SLAs are built around that for content that's. I mean, there have been things that have appeared on the website and then seemingly disappeared on the website. So you're creating a new social media policy for going forward that would affect the website. I was wondering, curious as to how that'd be capable of going back to correlate with the previous ordinances that may or may not have been retained, whether or not there was anything that was behind the scenes that was already kind of addressing that.
that's a good question. Mostly,
They probably wouldn't, but that might be something that for the computer guys or whatever.
I don't know if anything's ever really gone. You know, we have kind of a library stuff when we post, and then it may kind of just go inactive because we discontinued and it's no longer meaningful information, so we've unlinked it or something. But I don't know that it ever really truly goes away.
Okay. And that's how it should be. But
Should be in that library of things that we posted.
Looks like the term will need you.
All right, thank you.
Looking all snazzy today.
Man, I'm in jeans. You're in jeans.
Yeah,
Just as snazzy as you are.
substantially less snazzy over here.
Listen, I came from California, I never wore jeans to a thing like this. It was always coat tie. So I kind of like jeans.
I certainly enjoy it. I've spent a fair amount of my life sitting on in suits, and any days not in a suit is a winning day.
The last time I went to a suit, listen, I get married in 2 weeks and I'm not even wearing a suit for that. So,
That's coming up quick. I didn't realize it was that close.
27. So,
That's cool, man.
First Christian church. Oh, okay. It's our church, and we just follow pastor in his time. I let my daughter come from work and be there with us.
Oh, that's cool.
There.
You gonna ride off on your bike?
No, probably not. It's not a bad idea.
Symbolically, even if it's just around the corner, and then you can park it and hop into something more
Well,
comfortable.
we have the Harley shirts on though. She bought us
You
both
should
white Harley
absolutely
shirts.
get married in full leathers.
That's good.
That's what you need.
I'll get my vest on.
Yes.
My bros in the back of the room.
There you go.
All the colors.
I've still got a lot of my Harley stuff. I'll be one of your bros.
There you go.
Okay, I'll call this meeting back to order. The time is 9:10. We're moving to item number 13, fiscal year mid-year budget amendment. This is not an action item, but Mrs. Paloma, our Madam Assistant Administrator, would you please, Lisa? Thank you.
Did we get a credit back on those trees? I think, was it 4 trees?
No, they're replanting them.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, they pulled them, and this is something that I've been working on since actually taking the office of mayor. Is actually the first thing on my agenda with Dave, and so we actually had to send them have the city attorney actually send a letter, because I mean they wanted to charge us several $1,000s, and it just didn't make any sense. So anyway.
So it's not costing us anything, they're just replacing it? Okay.
That's right.
So what is our current budget? They're still at 1 million something? So,
Cash on hand?
okay. And just so everybody knows, $5,000 has not been spent on the ad hoc committee yet, so just want to make sure that everybody knows that.
You haven't had any desserts?
No.
Thank you, Lisa.
Actually, I want to point out a couple of things.
Yep.
Mr. Orchard,
Yes.
verify this for me. We're at 41% of the year. Is that, I want to make sure I'm doing my math right.
Okay.
12 divided into 100 is 8.33. So times 5 would be 41%.
Right.
That's correct? Okay. So, just to point out on our revenue, we're at 70% of budget, and we're only 41% of the year through. So we are considerably over budget on our revenue, and likewise on our expenses, we're at 31% of our budgeted amount at 41% through. So we're under budget on our expenses and thankfully over budget on our revenue. So that's positive news.
That is good news.
That's all.
It's been a lot of work to get there, though, and I thank you for that, Councilman Turnbull. I mean, that I credit you with a lot of that, so thank you. Okay, so moving on to item 16. So I do have a few announcements. One is the City of Rockwall Hazardous Waste Collection Day. It's one day only. It's Saturday, April 14th. So have we posted that yet, Adrian? Councilmember?
We'll do it immediately.
Yeah. So let's. We're gonna. That'll be a good event. Wayne, are we gonna have a trailer up here again this year?
Wait, for you guys to be here?
Yeah, we did it last year.
Well, we're gonna have to get somebody else to do it, because you have appointments somewhere else.
Oh, okay. So.
So if
Can we try to have a trailer up here?
we're going to try to work out if a trailer is here, but if not, again, the same concept will be that the citizens can come down, get a voucher from us that they'll be able to turn in to drop off their household hazardous.
But ideally, what we want them to do is go to, put them in neighborhoods, give those vouchers to neighborhoods.
Right,
Each
that's right.
neighborhood
Last year,
Yeah.
so we had some HOAs that got together, one voucher, so they all kind of came together. That way if someone just has one can of paint, they're not. And, I was one who took the trailer down there, and it's a little bit of a long line. I mean, 45.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so someone that just has one can of paint may not want to sit in a 45-minute, line
Okay.
to get in there. So if the neighborhoods, can come together and then get one voucher, you're right, that's how it really worked last year. Plus, if we're able to work it out to get a trailer up here that people can drop stuff off and one of us haul it down, that'd be good too.
I think many appreciate that.
Can we announce to HOAs that there will be something up here?
No, not to HOAs. We want the HOAs to get their own voucher and kind of work their neighborhoods.
I only know of one HOA that has posted about the information.
Quail Creek will.
Okay.
I actually run the website, so I'll make sure that it's posted.
I know.
So,
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll try to let Kentwood and Brushy Creek know to just come over to our neighborhood. That'll save them. So give me one before I leave. I'll take it for Quail Creek, and we'll take care of that. Also, Madam Secretary, I'd like added on the next agenda because it will be ready by then apparently. But I'm going to be announcing details of a settlement where the city is being made whole, is being reimbursed $130,000 in attorney fees. Sorry, I didn't have my mic on. All right.
You have to repeat that again.
Yeah. No. I know what you're saying. I do know what you're saying. No, I agree. But the city. So I will be on the next city council meeting. I'll be giving details about a settlement agreement that is returning $130,000 to the city of McLendon-Chisholm for attorney fees and expenses, making us whole and so there's a lot of just ridiculous, false information about that issue, and we're finally going to be able to talk about it. And maybe people might stay around and actually listen for a change, but I doubt it. Mr. Orchard, do you have any points that you'd like to make on fire protection services?
Nothing more than what I gave earlier.
All right, thank you. Mr. Turnbull on budget, finance, and investment.
Everything's been discussed.
Mr. Herron, how are we doing on roads and transportation?
Mr. Mayor, so I went to the last meeting of the Roads Consortium, and as usual, dates have changed. Let me pull out, I'm gonna do the comparison.
Oh, it's gonna be sooner?
Yeah, I wouldn't hold your breath for that.
Oh, man.
The only thing that's consistent is inconsistency.
Yep. So in February, they were briefed that the schematics would be approved by March of 2018, and then the utility relocation or environmental study would be done by June of 2018 this year. So that would be happening right around the corner. And then they would start relocating the utilities by May of 2022 and ready to let the contract by January of 2023. That was in February what they had briefed. Now, let me give you what they briefed at this last Roads Consortium, because things continue to move around consistently. So this is a State Highway 205 South. And so now the dates, still schematic approval was March of 2018. So the environmental has changed from June of 2018 to May of 2019. So there's an 11-month slip there. Now, the ready-to-let date, they moved from May of 2022 to November of 2021. And then the they're one date slipping out, another date, they kind of pulled it back in a couple months. But these dates continuously fluctuate. So basically, what we're looking at is they would not be ready to start this road construction on 205 in our area till basically about the beginning of 2022. So we're talking about another 4 years from now.
So when is the, can you ask a question?
Sure, I'll do
When is the study, is the study going to still happen, environmental study still happening in August?
No, they moved it.
Yeah.
That's the one that's moved back 11 months.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
they moved the environmental part of it back until May of 2019 now.
Okay.
So one of the things that did come up, as we talked about previously, is that I was asked to talk to the TxDOT about the left turn lane going into Sonoma Verde off of 205. If you're heading south, left turn in, and it is very, very bad. Anybody who's driven on that, they'll know this very, very bad. So I was able to get that through the committee to put it onto TxDOT as a requirement. So TxDOT is going to send somebody out there to go take a look at that. The other one that I brought forward to them was to do a study on the number of accidents that are happening on 205 in the proximity of where the Oasis rise is there. We just recently had an accident. That wasn't like any of the other accidents, but we tend to have a lot of accidents in that area. So TxDOT is going to do a study and to see if, because there's basically a blind hill where you're coming over that hill at 60 miles an hour, and you can't see over the hill, and people that are coming out of that rise, Oasis, can't see you, and if they turn out, they're doing 20 miles an hour, and you're doing 60 coming downhill. It's just a situation that could potentially have bad accidents. And so I asked them to take a look at that, and they're supposed to do a study on that, so we'll find out if there's something that's going to be done or not.
That's excellent.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Herron. Mr. Woodham, anything on the ordinance? But go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, nothing to report.
Okay. And Mrs. Balkin.
Okay, well, let's see, what should I start with? Communications. So, I'm sorry, not communications, the community. We're having a coffee chat on Thursday from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. with Mayor Robert Steinhagen and Mayor Pro Tem Wayne Orchard and Councilmember Scott Turnbull. So we'll be able to meet with citizens. We already sent out emails, so e-blast, and we'll post it on social media. And,
It's a great opportunity for citizens who are especially interested in what's going on in the fire department to get questions answered directly from the two guys who are negotiating the contract.
yeah, that is a great opportunity. And plus, you can, if you have any other types of concerns or issues, street stuff, repairs, that kind of thing, I mean, this is, you know, if you have questions about, well, anything that interests you, this is an opportunity to actually meet with your city officials and be able to give feedback, you know, good, bad, it doesn't matter. The point is that you have that opportunity to have some FaceTime with them, and so they're making their schedule available to be able to talk to people. Okay, so.
Hey, one thing before you change subjects real quick. I would think, Mr. Mayor, that you might want to make a proactive statement about the fact that you being present with the two council members does not create a quorum. Because that will be put out there on social media as that somehow there's a quorum at the city hall.
Yeah, yeah. The appointed mayor and two members of council is not constitute a quorum. You're absolutely right.
You know, this makes me wonder, should I start putting definitions down on the website? I mean, this is a serious subject, you know, because it seems like people are.
Well, yeah, because I've spent an inordinate amount of time just with the legal powers that be, understanding all of the nuances of Texas Open Meetings Act, walking quorums and things like that, which has provided substantial satisfaction that we are incredibly transparent and that the allegations to the contrary are baseless. That's why the investigation is going nowhere. But yes, I mean, it's a very complex issue, and there's actually common sense to it. While there is a standard, there's common sense to it as well, and it's based on both the actual law and case law that has been tried in courts, and so anyway, I think it would be helpful to have something talking about TOMA and a walking quorum in the those things.
Lisa, do you think they have a directory with Texas, TML, to see if that's Texas Municipal League? Maybe we can get some information.
There's on the TML, there's a easy to understand Texas Open Meetings Act document.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, so maybe we can put that on the website
Link
and stuff.
that.
So yeah,
definitely.
Good idea. Good
Yeah.
thinking. Okay, so the date again for the coffee chat, please schedule for Thursday, April 12th, between 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. So, let's see.
What? It's awful early for Scott. That's true. Don't say it. Mike's on.
You guys are gonna make me say inappropriate comments.
Oh, Scott, you love it.
You do.
Okay, so now the other things that I wanted to share a little bit about, we did meet again, the ad hoc committee for emergency services, and what I try to do with these meetings is try to make sure that we're, being proactive and meeting with other people who have experience in the fire industry, city planning, city management. And we even, on our first meeting, we had someone from Veriris actually it was four individuals all the way from New Jersey, speaking to us about ISO and mitigation analytics and things of that nature of town classes and stuff and point systems and things of that nature. So it's been really, really good, the meetings, because, everybody's really getting into asking questions, to be informed of things to look for whenever we're getting ready to deploy the statement of work, which is happening this week. And we're collecting the data so that it will be cost efficient for a consultant to be able to give us their recommendation, and also we'll be here to do a presentation. So anywho, so one of the two speakers that I spoke with was Chief Kevin Richardson from Capel Fire Department, and this particular individual is like sought after in the region, and, you know, do you remember the video, the presentation I did in regard to presenting the idea of doing a proposal for a feasibility study, and there was like 4 different cities coming together? Well, they received a, let's see, it's a Lone Star Achievement Award because the total of 4 cities partnered together to develop a life safety park that opened last fall. That's what you saw in the video. And anyway, their commitment is for life safety through their public education. And I'm just like enthralled with what he was saying because, man, I mean, you know, everything that you were talking about, Mayor, oh my goodness, like talking about like the knowing what to do when somebody is experiencing a heart attack, and then the whole CPR, the AED, and all that kind of stuff. They are proactive in making sure they're informing their community, they're having programs. And then he mentioned about like there's a, you know, already given 30 and 60 seconds, like it's already gone away because once you get that call to go for the guys to roll out and everything, they only have so much time. And then whenever they get their, they were doing their plan to do their department, they ended up having to figure out like how much time it would take to get from point A to point B, and then their goal was like 4 minutes. And so, anyway, but so according to, you know, like I think it was Rockwall EMS, it was saying something about it takes like 3 minutes. Anyway, the point is that, you know, you could lose a lot of blood in a matter of minutes, and so it was an encouragement to hear that, you know, anybody could be a first responder. And if you happen to know CPR and know how to, you happen to be nearby an AED or have somebody in training on how to like stop the bleeding, all that, it's helpful, especially to wait for that professional to be there at that call. And so, anyway, so he was definitely informing us about, you know, we're doing the right thing and doing a feasibility study and finding out what, you know, the community would want and all that. Because whenever we do have a presentation and people are able to get their input in, you know, because when we do display everything, people's opinion is going to matter on like what they would like to see in this department. And we will be able to get some feedback to help us kind of make the best decision to what's best for us, you know. So this gentleman has, gosh, he was a he began his public safety back in 1988. He joined the Coppell Fire Department in 1992 and progressed through the ranks as firefighter, paramedic, engineer, captain, battalion chief before he got to the position, promoted to the position of fire chief in May 2006. So this is not just somebody that just became a fire chief for just, you know, a couple of years. He definitely knows his stuff. In fact, TCFP, they have like all these really cool like videos where you can kind of learn about, you know, it's just informational kind of things, and they typically contact him and well, they have had him do presentations and stuff. So it was really good to see that he is definitely pro-education, and he's really good at presentation and being able to understand like the importance and the value of like these men and women that are you know, donning the gear, you know. So another chief that we talked to was Chief Richard Bell from Roy City, and unfortunately I had a little technical difficulty, so I missed out on having the call earlier, so we missed out on speaking with Fire Marshal Tanner Dietz, who is now the Fire Marshal for Roy City recently. Anywho, so one thing they put out, Roy City, is that they recently promoted, did you know, Roy City Fire Department is staffed mainly by volunteers. Currently, the Roy City Fire Department only has 3 full-time paid positions. These positions are comprised of the fire chief, fire marshal, and fire inspector, and these positions work from Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. And they cover, you know, I wanted to stress on the thing about the volunteering time, and what was interesting is that whenever we were collecting the data, it kind of like rung true about, you know, when are these run times happening? And so we're tracking the historical data, and I have figured out, based on the information within our city, that we have a very large call volume in the afternoon. And I think that was kind of important, because we were like wondering like when is the best staffing time, because usually it's like during the day, right? Because they're most likely sometimes that firefighter may be out at a real job, as they call it, I guess, and this is not, so you were wondering like when could they be staffing. So anyway, so these are some things that will go into to consideration when we go to do presentation, and also to figure out what's best for our city. And also, we have done a 3-year span so far from 2015, 2016, 2017, based on city data. And so if anybody has ever wondered, how can I get this on the...
You know how to go to your...
WIPs?
First you need to get on WIPs, and then go to get the app.
Oh, crap. Here we go. You said the app? Oh, this
Yeah.
thing? No, this is it. Shoot.
Go to the application.
Applications.
Is it not an application?
Yeah. Where is the...
Look, it's a green. Wait a minute.
I thought it was an app.
WIPs Mac.
Oh, there we go. Okay. And...
I have the remote.
Sorry.
Here's a remote. Tax things?
So-
Yeah, absolutely outrageous. Did y'all get that?
Yeah. So is it gonna come up now, or?
Yeah, so you need to take con. So open up WIPs thing. All right, so hit the play. There you go.
You wanting to close application? Why would I wanna close that?
Hit OK. Oh.
Shoot.
No. Okay. So
What am I doing wrong?
you're probably not holding your mouth correctly.
He said mouth.
There you go. See?
Mouth.
See what happened? See, I was moving. Did y'all see that?
Okay,
This better really be important.
it is important. Okay, so basically, we're tracking the information that's within our city limits. We're breaking them down, like the types of fires, MVA, which is motor vehicle accidents, and I don't know. So as you can see, we have a large volume of EMS calls, and motor vehicle accidents is up there. Right now I'm going through the Goodwill calls, which is it's just miscellaneous calls, and fire alarms, all that. So that's going to drop down, and the fire alarms will be in its own column right there, and alarms. So we have from 2015, 2016, 2017, actual structure fires, we have about 5 that have been calculated, and brush fire, we had about 23.
Now, brush fire, that's not a controlled burn, that's an actual emergency.
Yes.
Thank you. See, and that's what's different about y'all's data and mine, is I couldn't distinguish between what it just said fire.
I'm glad you brought that up, because
Yeah. You guys have been going through each.
oh yeah, it's what's interesting is that, okay, well, all the other fire departments, they were able to offer, I should say the open records request, when the city secretaries have gotten us the incident reports and all that, so they were able to, this is from the mutual aid, and we traced it back all the way to 2010. And MCVFD, we do not have any incident reports to this day, but we do have the call sheets that they have provided. And there is definitely a difference between their reports and the Rockwall County Sheriff's reports. So we're going through all that right now, making sure that we're accounting for all the stuff that's within the city, because this is a municipal-owned department. And so we need to kind of know what the demands are right now.
I think I figured it out. I'm trying to get rid of that.
The handle. So if there was a question on like what type of department that we're kind of leaning towards, it would probably most likely be a rescue type of department, because of the motor vehicle accidents and the EMS, type of calls, are pretty high. So,
When you say pretty high, what am I looking at?
well,
Which,
so far about 116. This is from 2015, 2016, 2017, and
are we
2018.
looking at the bar graph or the pie graph?
Bar graph,
Okay, so which is the big one?
the one on the left.
No, I'm sorry, the second bar on the left?
Oh,
The red or
yes,
the
yeah, sorry.
purple?
The EMS is the first one. It says 116.
Okay.
Okay. And again, I'm having to go back through the sheriff reports to vet it because again, I don't have the actual incident reports, so I'm having to go back and forth through all that information. And all of this information is going to be like raw data for the consultant to review on their own. And one of the things too on the grants they request is like they find, they want to know information about how many alarms that they respond to and MVA, motor vehicle accidents, burns, and weather related types of fires, things of that nature. So all this stuff is going to be able to be used for future additional information to be added. And so it will be helpful for us to be able to quickly be able to fill out those grants, because those grants only happen during a certain season, and so it's just helpful to have the data just ready available.
Are you guys also able, because the other thing that I had to do literally by hand is determine what is inside the city and outside the city, because neither the fire department nor the Rockwall County Dispatch, their programs don't do that automatically. You actually have to go in and.
Right. So
Are y'all doing that?
Yeah. So there's I've kind of found one of the things about Rockwall is they created a link to kind of show where the fire districts are.
Mm-hmm.
And
is this new?
Yes. Sorry. But
it's a lot of time.
Yeah, you have to go and put the street address in, and it kind of, you have to go kind of back and forth with the sheriff report. And and no offense to the police officers, but apparently you put like 100 block of the street name, and so that's just how they roll, But that's one thing that was good about NCVFD. They actually put down the actual address of the number.
Rockwall County did.
No, well, they do, but it would be like 100 block of it, unless it's not meeting the actual person, the complainant.
Like a house?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, right. Yeah, but the houses, address, those are there. You're talking about accidents and things like that.
Accidents.
Yeah,
So you have to kind of figure out which block it is, because sometimes it kind of crosses over that county line a little bit,
right.
And so that's where the trouble may lay. And also, one of the really cool things about Rockwall County Sheriff's Department is that they provided us a legend on what the codes mean, and so I was kind of glad about that, because that's where, because originally our one of the things that we were trying to do is to break down all the calls, and that's why the Goodwill section has like a lot of calls, because we were thinking like lockouts and the alarm should just go all in one column, but in reality we could use this data to be able to get grants, and so we kind of want to go in line with how the grant system is already labeling their categories.
So the biggest bar is Goodwill?
Goodwill, but it's going to go down once they go into their respective categories for false alarm, because a lot of them are in there, like alarms, like the alarm is just got put in, it's a new house, the alarm will go off, and so somebody has to stop it, or there was a smoke detection, or there was like a carbon monoxide, yes. Anyway, so things like that, it will be broken down a little bit further.
Can you, because we can't read the legend on the bottom, which one's the actual fire one?
The fire one is the third one to the.
Sorry, I'm gonna tamper with your.
Sure.
No, you can move the
Yeah,
money.
that's fine. There you go. Yeah.
So fire is the third one from the left, the green one?
Right. No, it says it's kind of.
Oh, so it's way down there.
Yeah, it's 5.
But and you have to, the number also, you know, having a structure fire, sometimes it's not actual
Yeah, it's not necessarily a house.
Yeah, it could be
Be
an
a
actual,
barn.
there was one that was a mobile home that was on there.
Yeah, somebody's house.
It's a house.
Somebody lives there.
But it could be a barn.
Well, technically, where this one was, I'm not really sure. I think it would have.
Oh, is that the one that was off of, Pullen Road?
Yeah,
There was
Pullen.
one that was behind a house. It was an RV, a recreational vehicle that
Yeah,
caught
that's what
fire.
I'm saying. It
So it wasn't really a
An
house.
RV, not a
Yeah.
travel.
So again, I mean, this is like why we need to have incident reports so that we can vet this information, all that kind of stuff.
But Adrian, you've got false alarm as a bar already.
Yes, I
29th,
know,
wasn't
but it's not complete because
I
a
see.
lot of the goodwill.
You still have more to go over there. Gotcha. Good.
But the most important thing right now that the consultant is gonna be more interested in knowing is the EMS, brush fire, and, the MVAs and the structure fire, because that's the, you know, the type of department that he needs to be focused on, what type of needs are we needing in this community. So, and I wanted to show this, now all of the information is definitely, where did you go? Here we go. We decided to do time because I figured at some point we would have to discuss about, the quantity of volunteers and when should they be staffed, or kind of doing a shift thing. And so I thought the pie chart right here in the middle, can you see that? It's,
Make it bigger. There we go. Yep. Do you know how to gesture? Do you know how to gesture? You don't know how to gesture?
I don't even know what that means. I guess
Gesture,
it's like-
gesture is basically you're able to move it, but you use 2 fingers. This is
Okay.
Mac 101, folks. You're a Mac person, yeah. There we go.
Okay, so then we got call volume by time of day, and so the nighttime is 13% out of all the calls. The morning time, which is that pinkish kind of red color to the right, is 27% of calls, incidents, I guess, that's taken place. And then the biggest one is 44%. Now, I want to also relay this information too, that TDI is where they, most fire departments, they go and send in their incident reports. It's not mandatory to send in their incident reports to them, and there's also the national as well, but it's encouraged from ISO to, you know, to do that, to send in their information. But they have like a thing that they publish yearly, to kind of talk about all of the fires in the state and stuff, and so this kind of goes along with their information in regard to like when typical fires are happening, and the highest place of a fire most likely to take place is in the kitchen, and it's a very, very high percentile. Anyway, so that I thought that was kind of important information right there. We're going to break this down also for mutual aid as well, because we're not going to just like let those the documents go to waste that these wonderful cities have given us to review. So how much time they have spent giving us service and us giving them service and all that. So that information is going to be included whenever we do our presentation. So.
So what's that time frame for that one, the bottom black area?
Well, the purple area, that time was the afternoon, and I want to say like that was like 4 to 7. No, I'm sorry, that was 1 to 5. Hang on, I'm figuring where that is. I just know it was like, it was right after lunchtime, I'm pretty sure. It would be down here in this formula. Oh, there it is. Oh, sorry.
Two fingers.
Yeah. Anyway, so there's the time. Yeah. So after 12 o'clock to 7.
12 till 7?
Yes.
So which was the second highest?
It would be morning.
The morning, so the morning's till 7. So basically what we were staffing was 7 to 7 seems to be the logical.
Yeah, exactly. So, what was the other thing I wanted to bring up?
The other question is, what kinds of calls. So for instance, EMS is taken care of with Rockwall County EMS. So the question really is when are fires taking place and when are the auto accidents occurring? So those are the two things that I'd like to see from the data.
Yeah, that would be good if you could break out what is actually happening in those, since there's a large number of calls. Are those calls things like lockouts or, pulling up behind a car accident and just, while somebody changes, or somebody
Exactly.
changes a tire?
Because right now what you're seeing is a lot of goodwill, and of course the fire department started staking out the Shell station to inflate their inside the city volume. So, we don't know what. I mean, the key question that citizens want is emergency. I mean, that's why we're paying for a fire department. And so rescue EMS, so auto accidents that are major accidents, not a stranded vehicle or change a tire, and then the structure fires and actual brush fires. Controlled burns, how many controlled, see, I didn't even, until you alerted me to the fact that, hey, they got a lot of controlled burns.
Well, I have found there's been some inconsistencies on that, so I can't give a definitive answer right now, only because I lack a little bit of the incident report information, so I'll have a better answer soon.
Okay.
So you're saying that you would want to know when the types of calls are taking place, like during the day?
Correct. That would actually be
Yeah, that's a preponderance of the calls you see
Right.
there. So what is actually happening during those call volumes? Is that actual, like lots of actual real calls, or are those a lot of goodwill calls during that time? And are the real accidents and the things happening at other times? Just need to understand what are the actual calls in those different colors of the pie chart.
Yep, because my next door neighbor's kid set the backfield on fire like after midnight, and so that's an actual emergency. And when do those kinds of things happen? I think our Simmons or our consultant's going to want to know those kinds of details. But this is really good.
Yeah, so I mean, it was definitely a good jump start on that, because a lot of people have this understanding that we have we have so many fires that are like structure related and all that. No, we don't. I mean, we have a lot of brush fires and again, a lot of stuff happens outside in the unincorporated area as well. And there's no question. There's definitely an increase in EMS calls. And the other thing too is that you need to understand the EMS calls whenever the fire department gets out. It's great that they do come out. They're definitely, it would be good for them to be on site. But the EMS has a paramedic that can be able to perform certain things that the fire person couldn't. So there is a difference in what type of care they can get at that time. And so it's important to know, it's like we're not saying that we don't want them to be first responding to that call. It's just they are needed for sure to be there for the EMS to do what they need to do. So there was another thing I wanted to touch base on about the so the statement of work. We pretty much completed that, and we need to just basically post it all on the web. We have all the content that's going to be available for anybody, actually, if you want to try to be a consultant, look at all the information that's being provided and all that. And so we have a deadline to meet, and hopefully we'll be able to get those proposals in, and then we're going to be able to review that and then determine which presentation we'll present, and then we're going to set a date for a town hall meeting for people to kind of review all the information, what's presented, and get people's input at that time. And so it's going to be really good. I'm really excited how things are moving in the committee. So
great work. Great work. Thank you very much, Councilmember Volcom.
How do I stop this? Do I just
press the stop key? Yeah. There is not going to be an executive session tonight. We don't have the need for it. So with all items on the agenda, this meeting is accomplished. This meeting is now adjourned.
Wow, you want to get terminal?
You think so? Hold on a second. How do I stop this thing? Let's see.